Hello everyone and welcome back to the Kevin Welsh 100% podcast. Bonjour as they say here in Paris, or bonsoir I learned this week because it's after 5-6 o'clock in the evening, and I learned that they say bonsoir and not bonjour. Bonjour is for daytime, but that's neither here nor there. We're back with another episode, and first of all, before we go on to today's guest, I'd just like to thank everyone for the incredible reception that the first 3 podcasts have got. Tom Delaney messaged me just 3 days after the last podcast came out with a message from Ireland AM saying he got on telly, his first television appearance, because of the podcast. So if you've been one of those people spreading the word, enjoying it, thanks so much. I encourage you to do so again, and it really is the very beginning of the journey. I've only had 3 guests and I plan on having many more. I already have 10 more videoed and ready to go. But we move on to today's guest. So today's guest has done one of those special things, which is make a full-time living, full-time employment out of a hobby, out of something that you love doing. And not only has he done it for himself, he's helped others do the exact same. One of those others being me, Killian Duffy. So there would not be any 100% personal training if it wasn't for Killian. He was the first person to really encourage me to go after my idea, which was opening the gym. And he gave me the first €2,000 to buy a bit of equipment, get things started. He also helped me look for a premises to start the gym on, and we ended up finding where the gym is today. So not only has he turned his own hobby into a dream job, he's helped me do the same, and I know how much he thrives on encouraging so many others and giving advice to others constantly. And you'll hear that in the interview. He's very passionate about people going after things, about new ideas, about trying different businesses, about getting out there, putting your name out there, taking a risk, all the things that are necessary to be an entrepreneur, to be a small business owner, and to make money from your passion. So what exactly is his passion? So Killian was a co-driver in the WRC. So if you're into cars at all, this is the episode for you. But anyone who's interested in starting a business of any kind will be able to take loads and loads of lessons from this. So what we talk about today is what exactly his job is right now. So he writes pace notes, which are the notes that every rally driver, every co-driver needs to do any rally in England or Ireland, or indeed anywhere in the world. But there's only 1 or 2 people with his job of writing pace notes in England or Ireland. It's an extremely rare job. So we talk about what exactly is involved in that, the exact mechanics of what he has to do when he's creating the notes and how he sells them. And we go back to the very beginning and find out how did he get into writing pace notes? How did he get into driving cars? How did he get into co-driving? How did he end up going from a small village in the west of Ireland, Crossmolina, which many of us, myself included, will be able to relate to go all over the world making money from his passion, which was co-driving. So he went to Argentina, the Middle East, Mexico, Syria. What sacrifices did he have to make? Crazy work schedules where he's literally going plane to plane, country to country with no rest, very little sleep, into rally cars around some of the toughest circuits in the world, in some of the most powerful rally cars on the planet. We talk about self-talk. What is your self-talk when you're in a car going 100 to 150 miles an hour? We talk about how he afforded such nice cars when he was very young. So when he was 18, 19, 20, 21, completely by himself, he drove some extremely impressive cars. We talk about how he did that, which will be of great interest to many people. So many people in Ireland, but in every country, love driving nice cars. We talk about the inevitable setbacks of running your own business, how to deal with failures, how to deal when things don't work out the way you want them to, how to bounce back from it, because this is a part of every single business owner's journey. We talk about mentors, who taught him along the way. If you're trying to achieve success in anything, you're going to need to take an awful lot of advice from many different people. We talk about his incoming social media projects this year. He's already started, which is kind of a like match of the day or Sunday game type program for after rallies, what his plans for that are, and much more. This is a fascinating episode. I know no matter who you are, whether you're into cars or not, there's so many lessons from this episode that you'll be able to use in all aspects of your life. So without any further ado, please enjoy this wide-ranging conversation with Killian Duffy. Just a quick note before we start the podcast. So would you like to support the podcast? Have you been enjoying the episodes so far? And would you also like to find out how I've been affording to travel through Europe on my Euro trip for the last 3 months and how I'm planning to keep that going for another few months? Well, I only have one source of income while I'm on the road, and that is online coaching. So my online coaching has proved to be very, very successful at achieving body transformation, at helping people achieve fitter, healthier, leaner bodies that make them far more confident and transcend into all other aspects of their life. So fitness and health are the foundation of all your other activities, all your relationships with friends, families, significant others, your work life, and how much energy you have to get up and go every day. All depends on your health, and your health starts with your fitness. It doesn't start when you get sick and trying to fix that. It starts with the preventative care, which is eating the right foods, exercising the right way, improving your posture, making sure you're not lacking energy because of bad foods, bad diet, lower back injuries, and that is exactly what my online coaching addresses. So while most of the before and after photos, what will stand out the most is the visual fat loss. Becoming fitter and healthier through online coaching is about far, far more than that. It's about educating yourself on what foods are healthy, what exercises and exercise strategies are best for your health. And I do that through 2 calls per week where I'm checking in on everything: your diet, your exercise, your cardio. I'm answering all your questions, and I'm making sure that you have everything you need to get in the best shape of your life. If you look through the 100% Instagram page, you'll see many before and after photos. All of these people have got into the best shape they've ever been in their whole lives. Whether 20s, 30s, 40s or 50s, your age is completely irrelevant. You can get in the best shape of your life, provided you have the right tools and resources available to you, and that's exactly what I provide. So if you'd like to support the podcast, if you'd like to get in the best shape of your life for summer 2023, please don't hesitate to contact me either on Instagram, Facebook, or my WhatsApp, which are all linked on the 100% social media pages. So without any further ado, we'll jump into today's podcast. 3, 2, 1, live. Alright, Killian. I suppose the best place to start, I think, right now would be, what exactly is your job right now? Because I'm pretty sure there's only like 1 or 2 or 3 in the country, is there?
That's right, Kevin. I suppose my job, it depends who asks. If I'm in the humour for talking, I'll go into it exactly, but if I'm not, I just tell them I have a printing business, which is probably the easiest way of describing it. But so what I do is, I do the pace notes for all the car rallies. So what are pace notes? I suppose to the majority of people that listen to the podcast. Pace notes are basically describing a road. So when people are doing a car rally, there's a driver who's driving and there's a co-driver that's calling what it's called pace notes. So the pace notes, the reason for them versus circuit racing is, a rally stage could be 10-20 kilometres long, so driver's not going to be able to remember it. So basically the directions coming from the co-driver to the driver describe the road ahead. So in the previous day before most rallies, tarmac rallies, the driver and co-driver get to drive over a stage. The roads are really, technically here, really difficult. So I supply notes nearly to nearly everybody that rallies in Ireland and now into the UK since 2019. So every single rally, so that's over 30 rallies in Ireland, 30 rallies in the UK, I drive every single route 3 times. And I describe the road as I see it to the guy that's writing them with me. Francis usually is with me for most events. He writes, on the first pass, I'll drive the route, I have a trip meter in my car, and I basically describe the road as I see it. It comes from my head. There's no way I can teach you in as it'll never be the same. It's straight from my head, what I see with my eyes.
And how fast are you going on those
normal road speed?
Spins? Normal
road speed. Like I have my car there. It has a couple of cameras in it. That's only purely for recording. I have a trip meter in it, and I have the steering wheel marked. That's it. Really, everything else is coming from where my hands are.
Okay, and what's a trip meter? Trip
meter basically. So when I have leave a corner, it's basically the distance. The trip meter is for measuring distances. So when you hear 3 right, there's it's 30 degree angle normally, and 100. So that's 100 meters. So that's the next place my eye sees. So when I leave a corner, I'll hit the trip and say it's a crest, so a blind crest. I'll zero the trip again, I'll call the distance off it, and that'll tell me then, so 3 right 100, flat crest meaning you can go flat out over the crest, 200. So that means it's 200 the far side of the crest. So I measure everything is done from the last point to the next point your eye sees.
Yes.
That's where I go to all the time. So even you might have like a road with like little bends in it, and then you have a crest at the top. I'll go like 200 up the middle, meaning ignore the small stuff and just go to exactly the last place your eye sees.
Okay, and is that, say when you come out of a corner and then your next thing your eye sees,
Yeah.
is that very subjective to the person writing the notes like you, or would everyone come out the corner at the same time?
Well, that's the thing. Like the secret, I suppose, is, or maybe not the secret, but I suppose the sweet spot I've found is, you know, it's very hard to get two people to see the exact same thing.
Yes.
So I try to make it as simple as possible that the majority see exactly as I see it. So in as the angles are the same, or they don't see the little stuff in the middle as well. They see exactly to the top. So when they leave the corner, their eye is going to have the same relationship with my eyes, in as they see the same thing. Otherwise, like if I'm putting in stuff and drivers go when they're doing their recce. So recce meaning that everyone gets to drive over the stages in tarmac rallies here.
Yes.
In the UK and the forest rallies here, they don't. They go blind on the DVD. But anyway, we'll rewind to that in a second. So basically, the thing is, if I start putting in stuff that the drivers or co-drivers say, what's he on about here? Like, this doesn't make sense. Then it's not going to work. Like, to be like, I can't use these notes. Like, he's putting in stuff that just makes no sense. So it's just to keep it, and like I started in 2010, and I'm always trying to make them better, always trying to make them simpler. Cars are getting quicker, and again, you don't want a load of rubbish in notes. Like if you have a load of rubbish in fast stuff, then the co-driver will struggle to call it, the driver will struggle to take it in, but the problem is then at the end of all that fast stuff is going to be a tricky corner. And then meaning that the tricky corner will disappear into all this information, and then they land in this corner, and then they could be off the road.
So rubbish is overcomplicating it.
Overcomplicating it, simple. Like you see people putting up in cars and they're just a load of nonsense in notes, like a right-hander that, and a load of, if it's a flat-out right-hander, it is, that's what it is. Like you don't need to overcomplicate it.
Okay.
Like, you know, and it's tried, and most people, like it's like overcomplicating anything. I don't know. It might sound fancy, or it might. It's you just keep it simple, and that's the thing. If it narrows, like as the road narrows a bit after, you have to call that. If it tightens, that's the critical one. Like the big one that catches people out is a corner that tightens, meaning that it starts off fast and it ends up slow. But the problem is if someone doesn't know it tightens, they've committed to the angle of corner. So say if it's like a 2 right, so that's in my one fastest notes, it's like flat out, but then say it tightens to like a 5, meaning it's a second gear corner, a third gear corner. Like you have to know that before you get to the corner. Else if you commit to a 2, like you're flat out, next thing all of a sudden the road goes round and someone's not ready for it, they're into the bushes or what, they're going to hit whatever's on the outside of it. Like
okay, so to do it properly, what you're saying, tell me if I'm wrong here, but to do it properly, you're trying to strip away as much information as possible rather than give as much information.
Exactly, yeah. Like you need to just keep it as efficient as possible. Like you could just go, as I said, if it's like I put in warning words, like so say in this case it was a 2 right tightens to a 5 right, I go slow 2 right, meaning that once the driver here is slow, they know there's another bit of information coming, rather than just lowering them into it, saying 2 right tightens 5 right, and then in all the action that's happening, they mightn't have heard the 5, and next thing all of a sudden they're off. So my job is to get the crews as fast as possible through the stage, and like I love when my crews will say win their classes. Like I get a great buzz out of that, but also I get a great buzz out of everyone getting around safely. You know, in as that no one has a bad accident, or that I've picked up on everything, that I've put in cares or cautions, or particularly that I pick up the dangerous places. And I wouldn't say it gets easier. I suppose the experience of competing is you know stuff that you go, oh, even when I'm making notes, that came up quick there. Like you know, I need to put in a warning, I need to put in caution that people don't get caught out. So you're trying to foresee the speed that they're carrying, because obviously I'm just doing a road speed. The road's open 2 weeks before the rally, and I'm meeting cars, so sometimes right-handers are a bit tricky to make notes on, particularly on a wide road, because you're trying to keep in to get the angle of the corner. Then you have to be careful if the cars come in the opposite direction, or say in some tourist place it could be a bus. Like so often your heart to be in your mouth at times, like because you're trying to keep it as accurate as possible, but you can't keep in on blind corners on the wrong side of the road, so you have to be as accurate as possible with them. You know, in the forest you don't have that issue, in as generally you meet nothing in the forest. Like you might meet an odd timberlary, but it's very clear that you're going to meet them because they'll be logging in the forest. So everyone that generally gets the notes, they get a notes DVD posted out to them, they watch it on their TV or their laptop. either the driver or co-driver both together or separately. So basically that alerts them to the fact that, oh, you know, this is the tricky place, and helps them learn that it's not about learning, it's about becoming familiar that they're not as nervous heading into this piece of road.
Yes.
And particularly, I think people get the video of my recce. So I record the third pass. I don't record me making it, like no one's going to want to watch that.
Okay.
So the second and third pass I'll record where Francis is calling the notes back to me and I'm checking them, and I'll make small little tweaks, be like, no, that just came up a bit quicker, that distance, you know, changing distances, trying to tweak them and fine tune them.
Is there much fine tuning between the first one and the third one?
It depends. Like I suppose I'm making notes for 60, 70 rallies a year, so like it's getting easier in as like I'm more say on the point on my first run now. I won't say I don't change stuff. Some stuff would be like, particularly if I meet a car, if I meet the postman coming the opposite direction, if something has killed my flow into that corner, I'll go, that just wasn't right. Like it's, you know, or if I have to pull in, or you know, for anything, if there's cattle on the road, we'll say, and I didn't get a look at it, then you're fine tuning it. And some places are just difficult to describe, and you're trying to describe it exactly as it is. If it's dangerous, you can't say it's not dangerous, and as you put a caution or something there, but you try to keep it as again, go back as simply as possible.
Yes.
Keep it as simply that the person reading it, because obviously my main background is co-driving, so like it has to be easy to call, it has to be easy to get out, and it has to flow. So the flow is the thing, because when you have a flow in a rally car, the times start coming, so people are able to push harder. They're able to push harder, but it's not dangerous what they're doing.
So the language is crucial.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, how it flows out. Like in as long 3 right tightens at gate, it can't be a long 3 right at gate tightens, because that's a totally different note.
Well,
because it tightens at the gate.
Yes.
In as it doesn't. The 3 right's not at the gate. The actual tightens at the gate. So everything has to be in my head exactly like Francis. It probably listens to this and he knows. Like I'm all smiles, but see when I'm doing the notes, like I'm a very difficult person to be with, because if it comes out the opposite way, I'll know exactly what I wanted to hear, and if it doesn't come out that way, I'll be like, that's not how it is, like, because people actually sneer at me about how grumpy I am when I'm doing the notes. But and to be fair,
let's say just on what you said there, let's say the language is crucial, because if the language is messed up, or if it's too long, or if it's not, you might as well have no note.
Correct, because it just confuses people.
So let's say in Ireland, there's a wild difference in the Cork and Kerry accents to the Tyrone, Fermanagh, Donegal accents. Would that make any difference?
No, not really. Like, you know, if someone's clear anyway, generally they'd be clear on the note calling anyway. Like it, like you know, it shouldn't be a shouting match. Like you shouldn't look at anyone's in-car and hear this load of shouting on the car. Like it should be cool. It should be calculated, and it should be just read with a volume of, like, your voice is a tiny bit higher with tighter corners. And with faster stuff, you could be more relaxed, like 1 right, 100, 1 left, 100, 5 right. In as you highlight that, so you pitch your voice. So when a co-driver is calling it to a driver, the driver should have a film reel in their head. So basically, all the film reels should be made up of the pictures, and the pictures of the pace notes. So when I'm driving, I'm putting 1 right in my head, so I know that that's flat out. I put 100 into my head, so that's in the film. So the film reel keeps rotating.
Yes. And
the little bits of information from the reel is coming from the co-driver. So if the co-driver is roaring out a load of information at one time, there's no way the film reel can put it all into place. It has to be like 3 right at gate, 40, 5 left, don't cut, or whatever the case may be. So it should be all chopped so that it's easy for the driver to take in, not just a roaring match, 3 right, 45 left, don't cut. Like you can't take in, if someone's roaring information at you, you can't actually take it in yourself. Whereas if someone breaks it up, it's very easy to tell the difference and to pick the important bits. And that's essentially it. And
a note is like a prompt.
Exactly. The notes are all your what's coming up.
Yes.
So you need to deliver them as a co-driver as clear and as cool as possible, and on time. Like, they can't be too early or they can't be too late.
So how much of you have a rally driver and you have his co-driver?
Yeah.
Right? How much of the rally is the rally driver going off his own instinct, and how much is he relying on the co-driver?
They shouldn't be going really off their own instinct at all. Like, it should be just like if the corner's flat out, whether you're not going to be quick. If you're coming up, and that's what happens, people, if you're coming up to a corner and it is flat out, say it's a 2 right 100, and the driver's hesitating, like, you're not going to be quick. Like, you have to come up, and if it looks like a tight corner and the note's flat out, you have to commit. Like, you have to say, right, this is what the note is.
The trust has
the trust has to be there. Or you can cruise around and no bothers and hesitate and be braking and checking and stuff. But to get to the top level, you have to push the envelope everywhere. In as you have to be, whether you think that's a 90 degree and the note's a flat out one, then you just have to commit that the note's right. Like, but like everyone's checked it 2 or 3 times on the recce day, so that's the day before a rally. Generally, you go over and check them at road speed with the driver and co-driver, and then you can just confirm everything is 100%. Now,
would you say it's more dangerous to hesitate on the note than to follow it?
Yeah, well, see, what can happen is then, I suppose, if people hesitate, it's sort of the lack of trust then, because the co-driver thinks then, sure, why am I calling these notes for? This lad isn't listening, like, or this lady isn't listening. So, like, that's the problem then. And then his concentration, because then he's trying to hunt on the driver, say, go on, you're grand, you know. And then all you have is chaos. So you have someone shout, so the shouting is back into the car, where it should be a cool environment. Go on, you know, that's, and then all of a sudden then you land into a tight one. The driver then congratulating himself because he's not hesitating, and then they land into something tight. Yes. So it should be really, all this work should be done in the recce that say, right, this is all good. And so, like, it's all a confidence thing. It's grand me sitting here saying, you know, everything at 2 is flat out or whatever. Then you're looking at, say, a morning like this morning, frosty road. You know, sometimes you have to improvise a little bit in as if it's frosty, if there's gravel, if there's mud, if there's water, if there's cows crossing there on the road, in as on the recce day where it's all mud. I mean, you know, but it's to get the most out of it, that you're not looking, that you're not checking. The driver should just commit. But again, that's the thing that comes with confidence, like, because someone starting off rallying, like, pace notes are a foreign language. Yes. Like, you don't, your first rally...
Well, to me, they're a foreign language.
Foreign language, but even as, say, me, I did Mayo in 07, a 106 Cup car, and I'd done 7 years co-driving at this stage, and I was actually driving. I remember Paul McGee, a friend of mine, was sitting. I remember driving down the first stage, and like, I know pace notes. Like, I think, you know, did the national champion, I had years of rallying done, and I was driving down. I was that excited that I was actually just driving a rally that I didn't even hear, and my time was poisoned for the first stage. I was braking, I was doing. So generally, everyone's that happy in the first few rallies that they're actually doing it, that they're probably not listening to the notes. So I'm saying about commitment. Commitment comes at a time. Commitment comes when you're familiar with what's happening and the notes go into your head. Like, whereas my head, when someone calls a note to me, like, I make the picture exactly as it is, and if that picture doesn't match what they said to me, I'll spot it straight away. Straight away, if there's something missing from my film reel, I'll spot it. But that only comes with experience. So people starting off rallying, the biggest thing that catches them out is they go too slow on fast stuff and too fast on slow stuff.
Yes.
They do the complete opposite. Yes. And then they're wondering where the times are coming from. They're having moments on ever, because they would have went up to, like, if the faster right-handers or left-handers, and they'd be braking and checking it. Then they'd bail into it like a tight square, and they'd be over the top, you know, braking too late into it.
Yes.
So it's about finding the rhythm and finding the process. You know, really, that's what it's about. And and you know what? It's just experience, and it's time. It just takes time.
Yes. But at the same time, like anything, it's not just experience. Some people have a natural knack for it.
Yeah.
But just on something you brought up there that brings up one of my long-term interests or questions about rallying. So you said you won the Irish
National Championship in 2007
as a co-driver.
As a co-driver, yeah.
So that's one reason to trust.
Yeah.
And then you've co-drived on the WRC.
Yeah, I've done 30 WRC events.
But at the same time, even though you have that experience, rallying, obviously, it looks to me like an awful dangerous sport.
Yeah.
So how much are you taking into account there when you're writing them notes of the dangerous aspect of it? And when you're co-driving yourself, do you ever think about danger, or is it, like, to me it looks like a very brave thing to do, it looks like a very courageous thing to do, drive a rally car, be in a rally car going top speed, or do you not even think about it?
Listen, you think about it, it's not a normal day. Like, anyone that tells you they're not nervous is spoofing. Like, it's not like me heading into town now to buy a coffee going into a rally stage. Like, you know, you don't know what chaos lies ahead in that 15 kilometres.
Which is half the fun.
Which is the buzz, like, as Michelle always said to me about roller coasters, would you not be nervous? I never get nervous on a roller coaster. How often does anything ever happen on a roller coaster? Whereas you get into a rally car and you're not sure when you're battling for that few seconds. The first stage, it's to find that. It's like mind games, and I know the Motorsport Ireland Academy work with a mind coach in that. it's to get over that. When you're going out that first road section, like I would say 90% of people are going, what the hell am I doing going out here? Like, you know, your stomach is in knots, and you're like, you know, the first stage, you just want to get through it. But then it's like a switch. When you get to the end of the first stage and you get a time and someone's quicker than you don't care what happens for the rest of it. It's just you're there, your instinct, you just want to go and get quicker and take risks and that. But having said that, at this stage, I just wouldn't say in with anyone, like, if I didn't trust them. Like, and there has to be an element of trust. I mean, you look at people's statistics and see how often they go off and that. And like, at this stage now, I just wouldn't sit in with any lunatic. Like, because, you know, there is people there that they genuinely probably don't care whether they get round the corner or not. And that's not what I want. And that's not what... They mightn't necessarily be winning anything doing this system. And as you want someone there that's quite calculated and pushes on and commits. Like you look at some of the fastest drivers in the world, they have the least amount of accidents because everything is calculated. Everything is all the work is done beforehand. They're not landing into a corner just on a wing and a prayer, like, and that's and that's the thing about rallying. It's not about being a joyrider. It might look like that. It might look like that, but it's very, very calculated. The ones at the top are, you know, you see spectacular spins and offs and stuff. But you have as much chance of having that spinner off at the back of the field as you are at the front of the field. Yeah, the pressure's higher because you have to deliver the notes, and if there's something missing from the note with a top driver, then you're probably going to go off if you miss like a slippy, because they're going to be so committed to that level of speed that if they're missing one of them parts on the film reel that they didn't know about and they land into this corner and it's slippier, then you're probably going to be off. So the pressure is higher. But I would take into account, say, certain places in stages. So you come up and there's like a load of trees after. Now, most of Ireland is very, like, the safety here is world standard. Like, it's actually beyond the World Championship, the standard here, with bales, with chicanes. In some cases it's overkill. But the way I look at it is that if there's trees, if there's something that, you know, if they go off here, this is going to be a big one, I'd put in a care or a caution. If there's something really dangerous, you have to put it in, because like, your mentality couldn't be normal to take huge chances. You always take chances on places you might get away with it, but like if you go over a fast left right kink over a crest and there's like, it's lined with trees afterwards, like, if you take a big chance there, like, you haven't any margin for error, and if you hit a tree at 80-90 mile an hour, that, you know, there's not going to be a good ending, like. So you put in your cares or your cautions, you know, it does dictate some of it, like what's afterwards. There's a big drop on the outside of the corner, you're not going to tell people commit to the absolute 100th on that corner all the time. Now, some people will, but like, that's up to themselves. I'll call the note, I'll put in the care or the caution. If they want to delete it, scrub it out for yourselves and call it as it is.
Say for example, I was in Sardinia last year, and you were one of the only people I met who had been there before. And some of the roads are absolutely wild. Like huge drops. You knew someone who had a big drop off?
Yeah, actually Aaron MacHale had a massive accident there back in 2007. He ended up at the bottom of a ravine.
So going into, we'll try and get a photo of that up, but if going into a corner like that, where you're basically on a cliff edge, or going into a stage like that, where you know this is a bit insane. Maybe you did Sweden one time, did you?
Finland. I've done Finland a few times and stuff.
Where the terrain is just crazy. Would there be an increase in nerves or the feeling of pressure, or
a little bit,
or even fear?
Yeah, a little bit, I suppose. You know, when you're coming to the particularly dangerous place, or ones that you know, right, if we go off here, like, it's the end of the earth, like. There's one place in Portugal in particular that was used a couple of times, and I remember just being always just glad to get around it. It was the place where Aaron MacHale, that fella, crashed, and it was real left right, and then there's like a tight left hander at the end of it, and like a barrier, and he rolled over the barrier, which is like Knockalla back in 2008. Knockalla is one of the most famous stages in Ireland, and it's a climb up this coast road up around Portsalon in Donegal. And I remember I was doing with PJ McDermott in a S11 Subaru, and we're 7th or 8th overall after day one. We're having a lovely run. So we took off up Knockalla, and it's daunting because you're looking up at this mountain and the sea's to your left for probably 7-8 kilometres at the stage. Like, it's just a barrier and then it's dropped down. And I'll never forget, we came into a right-hander probably about 4 kilometres into the stage, and I've always left a caution on the notes, and you're on the main road, and we went to turn into the right-hander and we didn't turn. And I remember heading towards the barrier thinking, the clip used to be up online, but it's gone now. And I remember hitting the barrier thinking, please God, let the barrier bounce us back onto the road, like, and it didn't. We flattened the barrier, and it was only a pile of rocks held us from going over the edge, like, into the Atlantic, like. And it was like, one of them moments, I remember saying to him, like, in the in-car, like, not screaming, I was like, go right, because you just panic, like, you think, I don't know what's the far side of this barrier, whether it's 2 foot or 20 metres, I don't know how much room we have before we're straight into the sea, like, we're on a cliff road, and the rocks just held us. And I remember saying to PJ McDermott, he's like, I hardly thought I was going to go left in as into the water. But I'll never forget that day, like, in as the panic when we hit that barrier, thinking, like, there's been a few times like that where you have dangerous places. Like, we had a big accident in Finland in 2011. And I remember thinking, after a jump, we lost it flat out. And I remember the car flicked, the steering turned in the middle of the jump, so that was the first part of the problem. So when we landed, it pitched to the left. And I remember, like, going sideways at whatever 70, 80 mile an hour, and I remember a tree coming to my door, like, as I knew it was coming, like, and it's always that thing in here, you always think, like, is this it, like, yes. And as it was coming, I remember closing my eyes as it was coming in, as bracing myself. We hit whatever we hit anyway, ended up upside down. There was smoke coming out of the car, and I remember being dark, because it's always dark when you're upside down, because obviously the windscreen's facing down the way. Yes. And the spectators helped us out. Imagine ended up in a hospital with just hurt his collarbone and that. And I remember the guys coming to collect us then. I was like, whatever I was thinking, I was talking to Stephen McCauley, who was co-driving, they had retired earlier. I said, whatever I was thinking, I thought we hit a tree, like, whatever was going, maybe it was just in my head. He said, you did. And under the car was the tree, where we uprooted this tree and knocked it flat, like, under the car. But, like, Ken Skidmore, that was running the car after said that they had to replace the whole of my side of the car. It was just like someone hit me in the side of the head. Yes. But again, you know, it's the safety of the cars. You're in a capsule, like, yes. You know, you could be very unlucky. Like Sardinia, we had a nasty one before, but it was a real. I wasn't expecting it. Was often the ones that aren't expecting are tricky enough. Yes. Cyprus, we had a big one in 2012 down a narrow section, and there was a little gully in the road, and the wheel just caught it and just pitched us into a tree from. But, like, that was, I remember I couldn't remember anything about that morning. I was so confused and concussed. I hadn't a clue where I was. I got out of the car and I kept asking Abdulaziz. They'd swapped day 1 and day 2 in the road book. So I thought day 1 was day 2 and day 2 was day 1. I was totally confused anyway. And but we went to Spain the following week and we finished 12th overall. We had a different car, obviously, because that car was destroyed, like. But there's times like that. But again, I've been very lucky. Like, there's people that play AstroTurf that have worse injuries than me. So, you know, it's...
And there's the element of risk in any sport.
Yeah, exactly.
Of, like, physical harm, but also of making a fool of yourself. Yeah. That's what makes any
it's excitement, like,
more exciting. If the risk isn't there, there's definitely a huge element of fun missing.
There is, yeah.
So you're working in your parents' chipper in Costline at what age?
16? It was 12. 12, yeah.
Okay. And then you go rallying in the WRC in Argentina, the Middle East, Mexico, Syria, you mentioned Finland, Sardinia.
Yeah, I've been
and
Poland,
a few more places, Poland.
France, Germany, so very lucky, Kuwait, Qatar.
Okay, so that's the dream for an awful lot of people in a lot of villages like Crossmolina. Yeah. Okay, so I am more GA background. Yeah. And I always loved the Oisin Mullen from Kilmaine, Kieran MacDonald from Crossmolina, Conor Mortimer from Shrule. These big personalities from
small villages. Yeah.
So how on earth would someone in a small village in Ireland right now who has the same grow for rallying as you end up in the WRC, or how did you do it? Well, is it rubbing people up the right way? Is it connections? Is it hard work? Is it people skills? What exactly? Give us some sort of roadmap of how you got from here to there.
Well, I'd say it was probably a combination of all the topics you mentioned there. I mean, like, listen, it's so I suppose we'll rewind here. So Mam had a takeaway, and I worked in that for 9 years, pure torture. But it gave me probably great patience when it comes to late night ordering of food after a night out.
But you didn't drink alcohol then?
No, I didn't drink at all. The one reason, even through college, I didn't, because the reason I didn't want that stopping me from achieving what I wanted to achieve. Yes. Now, probably I had no specific roadmap because I used to say, back when I was a child, Mum said, I used to say to Mum when I come home from school, even secondary school, like, did Dave Richards ring? He was the head of ProDrive, just sneering. Did he ring looking for me, so just a sneer. But I suppose, listen, there was accumulation of things, and you need people with you, and you need the right people with you, from the point of view that looking out for you. So, I mean, Dad was involved and would have brought me to rallies since I was my own kid's age. Like, I could read a map probably when I was 7 or 8, probably fairly good, like. And we'd go spectating and I'd read the maps. And then I started driving, actually. I got an autocross car, but obviously the takeaway helped because I was earning money from that as a young kid, and everything I had just was put into that. So I really had no time for like socialising as such, and I was just always working because this was my money pit. So then I did night navigations. It's ironic actually how things pan out. My first ever autocross driving was in Claremorris in Hanley's Field. My first ever time navigating ever was in a night navigation based out of the Western Hotel in Claremorris. And now I'm married and living here. So it's bizarre how your life goes. You've been all over the world, but it's all started here.
Yes.
But I remember like my first night navigation, I was 16 years of age. Dad had a Corolla rally car at the time.
Sorry, what's a night navigation?
Night navigation. So basically, you have a load of points on a map. And you have to plot them in. So you get all the coordinates, you have to plot them in. You have an hour or an hour and a half to plot them. So then you have to hit these. So there's like, it's normal, if the roads are open, it's at night time, so it's in the dark, so obviously it's a challenge. And you're looking through a thing called a potty, so it's a magnifying glass with a light in it. And you basically have to find these points. You have to arrive at them the right direction and depart from them the right direction. So people mark it on your sheet whether you did the correct way. So that could be, you could do 90 or 100 miles at night time, and some of the points you don't even have them, they throw them in the window to you and you have to plot them there in the dark in a car. It's brilliant training for co-drivers, like, because you have to be watching your time. So if you're 2 minutes late at one time point, you can't make up that 2 minutes going to the next one. So say you're due at the next one, you add 2 minutes to it, you can't be early because you get penalised for being early. But then you can't get too many penalties. You might have to skip a time point to get back on time.
So
again.
you still have to follow speed limits in that?
Yeah, well, you generally do, but I tell you, it's sketchy enough there. So it is on the night navs. I think the average speed is set at 30 mile an hour. That's average speed, and you're going up some lanes that are barely passable by a car.
Yes.
So I remember it was on half-inch maps, which is old maps, like obviously in the late 90s. And,
before Google Maps.
Before Google, before 1 to 50,000 maps, which is the very detailed ones. They're easy to read, like,
yes,
relatively, but the bit night now is more tricky now with technical stuff in them. I haven't done one for years. But I remember doing that night, and Dad couldn't use the Corolla at the time, and he had a rally car that was suited for it. He used this Passat road car, this 94, 93, whatever year it was, Passat, just normal road car. Like, you can do them road cars, but generally you opened in a lot of places because they bring you up rough sections of fields even. It's just crazy where you bring you now. Like, everyone has these Subarus now, and they're sort of bulletproof. Like, you can't use a turbo car. So it has to be like, so because people were using turbo cars then, like, even our friend James Grail had a Lancia Delta Integrale turbo doing. I'm sure it was easy enough to keep the 30 mile an hour because he had 300 brake or 280 brake, so versus something with 130 brakes, it was easier for him. So they ruled out them. Anyway, cut a long story short, I came to Claremorris and I remember finishing 4th overall. It was my first event. It was 4th overall, probably out of 30-40 crews. Like, and in my own head I'd arrived. Like, this is it. This is just going to be the easiest bit of plain sailing ever. Like. You know, so I went to Cavan, was the next one. We had the Corolla back, the rally car, ready to go. I got an education. I'd say I went in about 3 time points and got stuck at the bottom of the lane. I finished about second last. So that was my first education in as, right, hold on now a second, you have a lot to learn. And I had a lot to learn. Like, as I said, I thought after leaving Claremorris, like, this was just going to be a formality that I just go and finish 4th overall every night.
Yes.
I think I didn't do a whole pile of night navs after that because I started into the stage rally, and then first one was like, I was out marshalling actually, 99 Mayo Forestry, and Pat McGuinness's brother Ian was supposed to sit with him, and he couldn't make it as a double O car, so a safety car. So I had a licence from the night navs. I actually had done a night nav the night before in Midland. I got home at 3 or 4 in the morning, and the rang and said, hey, will you get your suit at home? Sit in with Eamon, because I had the licence. So I sat in with Pat, and I just did the night nav, or the forestry rally, calling the notes. So I was probably useless. Like, well, I probably had an idea because I used to sit in the back with Dad when he was doing a few rallies, and I was learning how to read road books and learning about timing and pace notes and how they worked.
Yes.
So then and
how old were you at that stage?
16 or 17.
Okay, so the main thing there would have been your paying attention.
Yeah, I would have been sitting in the back now doing recce's in Cavan. Dad would do maybe 2 or 3 rallies a year with John Egan and be his co-driver, and I would have just soaked up everything. I would have sat in the back for 8 hours in a recce and just like they'd even hand me the road book and say, right, just follow that now. So it was great grounding, like great training, and you didn't know you were learning because it was part of your life. And as Dad was involved in rallying since I can remember, in doing autocrosses and a grassroots rally, and then he did a few stage rallies and stuff. It was just part of my life. I did play football up till under 16 or under 18 across the line. The dedication just wasn't there, and as I just wanted to be doing rallying and that. But I didn't exactly know how I was going to get into stage rallying. It always seemed like from night navs the step up. But then the call came, James MacHale in Monaghan 2000 said, Chris Mitchell was co-driving, couldn't do the rally. And then we went and did Monaghan stages, we won the class, and we won, I think I won class like 7 events that year, 6 with James and 1 with Trevor Morrow from Ballina, and that was it then. Foot and mouth came then. I was in Leaving Cert year in 2001, and rallying sort of stopped, because of foot and mouth. And then Francis rang me. I was just started actually in college in Sligo. Good job, foot and mouth came the right year when I was doing my Leaving Cert. Now, not that I paid any more probably attention than if it wasn't happening.
Yes.
Francis then, who ironically works with me now, a very good friend of mine, Francis rang me and said, hey, George Tracy is looking for a co-driver for Ackle single stage. Like, he was in a brand new Pro Drive Subaru, and I was like, Group N seat, like this is like, I won't say the bottom level, but this is, it was Division 1, then Premiership is obviously the World Card and stuff. So I said, go on, I'll do it. So Francis did that deal anyway, and we finished 10th overall and 2nd or 3rd in Group N back in Ackle, and that was just magic. We were supposed to do Cork single stage because there were limits to single stages because you had to wash the cars with the foot and mouth. You had to, because that's why Ackle was used, because you could wash every car going onto the island, so there was no fear of spreading foot and mouth. So anyway, Francis then rang me to sit with this guy called Derek Job in Cork, or in Donegal, single stage back in October 2001, and I did it with Derek, and I'd say I did years with Derek. Like, I did with Group N and EVOs and stuff, and great times and just really enjoyed it. Like, I really enjoyed rallying with Derek, and I'm still very friendly with Derek, and he's a great character. And then I suppose then the next thing was, I was doing different rallies here with a few different people, mostly Derek. We were doing the National Championship and an EVO and that, and really enjoying it, trying to get quicker, and probably came to the stage where maybe I was pushing him on too much as well, and as I was trying to get more out of Derek than pushing him more, like he's 50 odd. He didn't want to be taking big risks, whereas I'm 19, 20, I didn't care. Like, it didn't matter. Let's just go as hard as we can for as long as we can. So then I suppose I then got a chance. Then Mickey Joe Morrissey, a friend of mine, like, he used to sit with the top guy in this country, Stephen Murphy, and I remember having breakfast. He worked in the ESB, so again, Dad knew him. So I said to Mickey Joe, I knew he was in the Middle East, co-driving, like, this was like the Middle East, like, imagine going there, like, well, what's it even like? Like, it wasn't Google, it wasn't much Google or anything as what it even looks like. You could just imagine what it looked like. So 2003, Mickey Joe rang me in June. He said, hey, what are you at next week? I said, well, I'm working. I was actually working with Sean Laverty up in Remax in Letterkenny, and he said, would you go to Lebanon next week? I said, geez, I would. So I ended up sitting with
Ahmed. Had you ever done a foreign rally before?
I did one. Did I do a foreign rally? God, I don't think so. No, that was my first one. Yeah, we flew it. Yeah, and everyone calls it the Lebanon. It's ironic, even though it's Lebanon, but it's an Irish thing. Everyone calls it the Lebanon. I don't know why it ever came from.
The COVID.
Yeah, it's bizarre. But anyway, sorry about that. But so I remember meeting Mickey Joe in Dublin Airport, and actually Gary Emmett was the guy that was running the cars. I was actually sadly he passed away about 6 weeks after my wedding. I was actually at his 10-year anniversary mass there at the weekend. But Gary's a great fella and a great influence on getting me into the Middle East. So we did Lebanon, we did okay, and then the driver, Ahmed Saban, Saudi guy, said, "Oh, would you be interested in staying on for more?" I was like, "Definitely." So a few weeks later.
Why did he want? What had you done on your chance there in the Lebanon that made him want more of you?
I don't know. I must have did alright a job of calling the notes, and like he wouldn't have been very experienced in making notes, and I suppose like Derek Job and I would have done some making of notes, and I would have had an idea just of how the corner should be. So I used to help him make the notes, because he was used to coming from desert rallying. So now Lebanon was a tarmac rally, it was as twisty, as technical as Ireland. So I suppose I was able to give him a good input, and he was delighted. Yet I had a lot to learn in the desert, as the desert's completely open, and you have to pick your points and your markers, and you could, like, it all looks flat, and then you could have a dip in the middle of it that you could have a 100-mile-an-hour accident. So it's about, there's different challenges with the Middle East. But he asked me back, so I did Jordan and swam in the Dead Sea. I remember, like, totally green, 21 years of age, or 20 I was at the time, and I remember, like, I hadn't even enough sun cream on, and I was absolutely roasted. Like, stupidity. Bubbles, I mean, it was 50 degrees Celsius in the Dead Sea, and it's pure salt, obviously, so it obviously washed off all of me. We're in it, Mickey Joe and myself were in it for 6-7 hours, I'd say. So I remember the recce, like, ridiculous. I remember the recce then, and the seatbelt pulling on the sunburn on my shoulders. So then I had to get into the rally car and pull down the seatbelts on the sunburn. And then you're getting rattled through a desert, because Jordan is a pure desert rally. And I remember thinking, please let this car break down. Like, I just cannot take the pain of this anymore. And it did. It broke down the third stage. Sorry about that, but I was actually delighted. The engine went, so there's no chance of restarting. So I was delighted. But it did teach me a lesson. Like, oh my God, it was after, so like the pain, I could hardly touch my shoulders. We were staying in Amman, which is the capital of Jordan, and driving down to the Dead Sea every day. But then I ended up doing, I think, Syria that year. That was a weird sort of place.
That reminds me of your man, the first Arctic expedition to Antarctica, and they were asking. He said that he brought 20 or 30 people with him. Yeah. And he said they don't give out about the minus 30 temperatures. Yeah. They give out about the way the other fellow chews his food.
Yeah,
So you're going to rally and you're driving 100 miles an hour. Yeah. And you have all these pressures, and it's the sunburn that gets you.
Oh, I'll never forget it. I've barely been sunburned since. Yeah. Because it's not worth it.
It's the same with a football team. Like you're up against really tough teams, oppositions, and your high pressure games, and they don't complain about Castlebar or Ballintubber. They complain about fucking this fella is fucking has his socks pulled down. This fella's annoying me.
Just
I
the
don't like
things
the
catch your
stupidest
attention.
things. It's human nature more than what you just think. So you're in the Lebanon, Saudi. You're basically in the Middle East.
Middle East, yeah.
And is that the WRC?
No, so that's the Middle East Championship. So it's an FIA.
So how did you go from the Middle East to the WRC?
So basically, then,
or is it much of a step up?
It'd be the top tier. Like, so it's like Middle East. There'd be lots of regional championships. So there'd be like a European Championship, Middle East Championship, American Championship. The world is obviously the one that covers the world. That's the top tier. That's the top drivers, top everything is there. So I always had this connection with the Middle East. So I started teaching then in 2005. I started doing my HDIP, so I'm a secondary school teacher by trade. I was teaching Tala Community School, and I sort of concentrated on co-driving here, as I did years of PG McGrath and Wexford, and then the opportunity came to sit with actually who turned out to be my brother-in-law, Aaron MacHale. So we did I sat in sort of halfway through 2007 with him. I was sort of concentrating rallying here and success here, and we won the national championship that year, and it was fantastic. Then 2008. And
is winning a national championship in Ireland, is that a better thing on your CV than just getting a seat in the Middle East? Or
no, still it'd be like it's still this great recognition for going abroad and succeeding. Now, listen, I didn't have that much in us. We were doing the events. We were probably getting. There wouldn't be huge numbers competing in the Middle East. We might have got maybe one third place in maybe Bahrain and Syria. I think maybe even Syria won like.
This was
03, 04 or something
Syria
like that.
Before the war.
Yeah, but it was a weird spot before that. Like Mickey Joe got shot at one of the recce's. Like I remember seeing a truck getting ambushed, and it was crazy. Like even the kids, God love them, they had nothing. Like.
And did you not have any? We're not a bit apprehensive.
Well, actually, the only time. Well, I didn't know anything about it. Like ignorance is bliss. Yeah. And I remember walking around Damascus. And I was staying in a hotel. I lost, like the lads had gone there the previous year and they said, whatever you do, don't eat anything. Don't eat anything. Like you'll get food poisoning, because everyone gets food poisoned there. And you couldn't get like a can of Coke or anything like that. You wouldn't get anything that you recognise. So I remember going to the hotel and I ate down for breakfast. Even the Arab drivers and co-drivers, they were staying in the same hotel. Be like, what are you eating? Like I had a banana sandwich, I had banana sandwiches for the week. I just because I had to get something. I actually like banana sandwiches.
Yeah.
Which is a bit weird, but anyway, I lost I think half a stone in the week. I could do it going out there again, but anyway, that was. But I remember walking around Damascus, just the shopping place, and I never felt ever in my life like there's so many people staring at me. And you know what, and you know, in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have left the hotel because the mechanics were staying away from us, so we would have had a lot of Irish and UK mechanics with the teams. But like I didn't even see them for a week. Like, and it wasn't like now you've internet or anything. Like it was like the longest week in my life. Like I thought I'd never come home. The following year I went back, I think twice more to Syria. I did. I went back in 07 as well. Actually,
essentially, so you're you know who you're going out to.
Yeah.
But essentially, you're doing these trips solo. You're going on your own.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, it would have been like when Gary Emmett was running the teams and Mickey Joe Morrissey would be with me. We'd fly in the same flight, so it was great crack. Like,
but what I mean is like you're not going with a friend as such. It's more of a like you're traveling solo.
Oh yeah,
as a type of business.
Yeah, well, I would have now when I started sitting with Abdul Aziz from 2012. I was always on my own.
Yes.
Unless he was on a flight with me from the Middle East, like if we're going direct from the Middle East.
Did you find that hard to do? Travel alone?
No, like that's what you know. The longest flight I was ever on was Dubai to Buenos Aires, and it just reminds me of Christmas Day. Like you're eating rubbish, you're sitting down, you're watching telly for the whole day for 22 hours. So it was like Christmas Day, really. Like, and no, I didn't mind it. Like to be honest with you, you know, and as I do a lot of traveling now over and back to the UK, obviously every week. But you're better set up now. You have Netflix on your phone, you have headphones. Like traveling now is far easier, I would say. Like the entertainment wouldn't have been hectic on the planes back in 2003 or 4. I don't think some of them planes wouldn't even have. They'd just have one TV for everybody.
Yes, but maybe that combination, I feel anyway, is underrated. Yeah, fair enough. You had the skill as a co-driver to go to the Middle East, but you also had the willingness to travel to dangerous places.
Yeah,
solo,
unknowingly.
Yes, yeah,
unknowingly probably.
Solo as well. But not even just the dangerous.
Yeah, that was always the loneliest part when you'd land in an airport and you didn't know, like, to get a taxi on your own to wherever the hotel is or wherever.
Well, a lot of people won't even go, even if they're talented or gifted at something, whether it's music or sport, or they won't even go to places that are safe. Never mind somewhere that are unsafe or you know. If you even say you're going to Manchester for a weekend on your own, people think you're mad traveling alone. You know, so to go to the Middle East before internet.
Yeah, no, I don't. But generally, I don't mind my own company that much. Like I would say, I do most of my thinking. That was the hardest thing during COVID. I know I'm fast forwarding here, but during COVID was that my thinking time is when I'm on an airplane or in a car. I wouldn't maybe listen to odd podcasts and stuff, but that's generally when I think of like ideas or things that I'm going to do is when I'm travelling. And even like sitting in a restaurant by myself, I don't mind at all. Like I don't mind sitting. Maybe that's from back when I had to spend so much time on my own.
Yes.
But then you're with their drivers then for the day in the car doing the recce's, and you could be with them for 10 hours in the car. So you know yourself, you're hanging around someone of not even of a different culture. Even if I was with you for 10 hours, you'd just be like, oh jeez, I just want to get rid of that. Yes. Get away from this lad. You know, just in my own time for a few hours. Like,
yes.
Do you know?
So back to the WRC. So how did you get on what was the final thing that got you onto the? It's the Premiership with.
It is, it doesn't get higher. That's
how did you finally get onto that? Because I'm sure lots of co-drivers get very, very far, but never get onto
it. I suppose the first World Championship event actually was Rally Ireland in 2007. So it was my local event. I did it with Aaron. We were the national champions. So there was the three MacHales. Gareth was doing it, Aaron's brother. Austin, Aaron's dad, and Aaron was doing it with the 3 in Focus WRC cars. So, I mean, it was a very special thing to be part of. Even 3, like you rarely get. I don't know if you even had 3 family members in 3 WRC cars doing a World Championship event even since. I can't remember if you had, but anyway, we finished I think 14th overall, and then in 2008 I was obviously still teaching in Dublin. But then I got a phone call from the Middle East, the guy that's run the Abu Dhabi team at the time, and he rang me and said, hey, would you be interested in we're setting up a new junior program here, would you be interested in coming over? And I was like, oh, I don't know about coming over, like I'm teaching now, and I sort of life's in Dublin and I'm not sure. Then I thought, sure, listen, what's the dates of the rallies? So there was like 4 rallies doing with these juniors. I mean, they knew nothing. We had to teach them like pace notes, everything. Then I always enjoyed the sun. I like the sunshine. I hate I don't mind the weather here is cold and dry at the minute, but I love to get every month or 5 weeks to get a bit of sunshine. But obviously I haven't had that, with current life. But I was saying, you know what, I'll go over here. Then the first round was during midterm break, and then the second round then was during school. And I was like, right, I'm gonna have to depart here for a week. So I think I even called in sick for the week, to be honest. I said, sure, I'll take my chances here. There was a round at the early part of the summer, so I had to have the phone off for the week, and then you're coming back trying to stay out with the sun, because obviously you're in 30 degrees, so I tan easily enough, so I was like, I have to stay out with the sun for the week, that I don't come back saying I was sick and then I'm all tanned. So, sorry about that Pat Coffee, now he was the principal, Brian, if he's listening.
Yes.
And so then they said, listen, would you be interested in doing next year? We're doing the Middle East Championship and the World Championship in ST Fiestas. And well, I said, I don't know, will I leave teaching? I'm paid every week, and so the deal was we were paid for the year regardless of what happened. So whether we did 1 rally or 12 rallies, because everyone in rallying has a great plan at the start of the year. By the time you get halfway, if the plan isn't working out, they just say, right, here, we'll cover losses, here, we'll give up. So I just want to be sure we had a contract there that if we got paid regardless. So that's what I did. I left teaching in December 2008. I moved down to Claremorse to Michelle, and I did that for the year. It was hard. There was a lot of crashing, and the guys weren't going that quick. But you were learning the events, so I suppose there was one positive out of it. Then 2009, that was 2009. 2010, then we no contract. So that was difficult, because you got one event in February and you're not until May. So how do you live?
Yes.
The notes start in the middle of it all. But anyway, fast forward, just keep going with the WRC story. 2012, then I did one event. I did Kuwait Rally with Salah bin Aden, who sadly passed away during COVID, in a Pro Drive Mini, a brand new Mini RRC car. It was flown over for us, and Salah was a great character. I sat with him in Syria back in 2007 as well. And he just rang me, or WhatsApped me and said, hey, would you come over? And I said, you know what, I would come over, just for a bit of fun. I hadn't any Abu Dhabi program at that stage. That ended at the end of 2011. I did 2011, and that was 2009, 10, 11 with that Abu Dhabi. And I didn't know what I was doing. I said, I didn't know what my plan was. I knew I still wanted to go away, because obviously we'd no kids, and life was easier, we'll say, back then, from the point of view you could go wherever you wanted. I'd only the pace notes in Ireland, so it was easy enough to manage. So I did that event with him, and we did really well. We finished second overall, and we rolled in the middle of the whole thing, but we put in some fastest times. And obviously I had done so many years in the deserts that I could read a desert as good as the Arabs. I can read a desert, I can pick out stuff in a desert now, no problem. And then I was having breakfast this morning with Abdulaziz Al Khoury. I would have known him since 2003, and as to say hello to. And funny, he had no English back in 03, 04, 05, 06, but now he had very good English. And he texted me after I came home and he said, hey, he was leading the Middle East Championship, and he had a Mini. He was like, hey, my brother can't do this amount of rallies. Would you be interested in doing a rally in Turkey in, say, April? I said, sound, I'll go over. It was this rally in Eskişehir in Turkey. We're doing a Group N card. It was a Turkish team that ran it. So flew into Istanbul. The team collected me, actually, because it was a Turkish team. Lovely Talk Sport. They're actually one of the top teams in the World Championship now, in the second tier of, let's say, WRC 2. And lovely guys. We did this event in Turkey. We got great help from the locals there that were running with the team as well. The road books were in Turkish, and it was a bit tricky. But we finished third or fourth overall in one Group N. The tarmac rally was brilliant. And as they said, hey, would you do more rallies with? I said, why not? I have nothing else on. A proper team, nice guy. He's out to be competitive. And we did the rest of 2012. Then we were big enough off in Bulgaria with the barrier, an Armco barrier. It came in nearly to, we were lucky actually, it just stopped at the right time before it came into the car. And we did the year with them, just lost out in the Middle East Championship by a few points. We retired on the last round, but really enjoyed that year. I mean, with some offs that year, because Aziz hadn't done much outside the Middle East, so whenever we're outside the Middle East, generally we're crashing.
Yes.
Because he was getting caught out, he was used to the deserts. Then 2013, then he said to me, listen, we're going to do it in a Ford. We're going to do the World Championship with Ford next year. I have a deal done with them. Seashore was our sponsor, it's a big company in the Middle East, in Qatar. And we're going to do the Middle East as well. I was like, wow, this is amazing. We're doing 13 rallies. But that was 13. But I was 4 months away from home that year. Like in like we won a small rally in Kuwait. We're generally very, very competitive. We did a lot of second and third overalls. But we just came within a few points of winning WRC 2, which is the second tier of the World Championship. Like it's there or thereabouts. You're just in a slightly less powered car.
Yeah.
And we had 3 WRC 2 wins. We won in Mexico, we won in Australia, we won in Argentina, and we went in a WRC car, top tier car. In Spain we finished 10th overall, and we finished 10th overall, so I got a WRC point. The only thing I wanted to start with my career actually was I wanted to win the Irish National Championship. I did, and I did get a WRC point, and I got 2 that year. And like there's not many, there's probably I'd say maybe 3 or 4 co-drivers in Ireland that have WRC points, so I'm very proud of that. Like, yeah, there's people with probably 100 of them, but the one to me was as good as any is. But I got 2 that year. But Ford M Sport ran us, and we learned a lot. And then the Motor Team, which was Raja Fagali, ran us in the identical car in the Middle East. But some of them trips were epic. Like, we did an event, a local rally in Jordan in May 2013. So we flew over to Jordan, right? We did the local rally. Soon as it was finished, we didn't even go to the finish ramp. We flew from Jordan to Dubai. We waited in Dubai for 5 hours. We got on a plane to Buenos Aires. So that was the flight. That was the plane I was on for 22 hours. Right, landed there. We had a day to spare, just sleeping mostly because obviously the time difference in the Middle East to there was 9 hours or something crazy.
Yes.
So we did Argentina. We won WRC 2. We just went to the finish ramp straight to the airport, and we flew back to Dubai. Waited in Dubai for the night and flew to Jordan, and straight into Jordan we went recceing straight away. And we were going around like recce in Jordan, and 2 of us were nodding off. And we're like, "Here, this is dangerous. We'll have to ring the organisers here to give us dispensation to recce another day." We were just fit for sleeping. We didn't have a clue where we were.
Yes.
And we're trying to recce, do the pace notes. 2 of us nodding off in the recce yard, pure dangerous. So anyway, rang the organisers. Listen, we're after doing they knew we were after coming from the World Championship event, win WRC 2. Said no problem, you can do it. We'll just give you a tracker and you can recce it tomorrow. You can do all the recce tomorrow. We're like, happy days. And then I flew then home for that. But I was there that was a 3 weeks trip. We were there for 3 weeks, plus I had the notes obviously to do it from here.
So you have those 3 weeks in a row where you're away from home. And this would bring me back to a question from earlier as well, okay? Which would be a little bit about process. Okay, so like, is there a particular process when you're writing notes now for work, for writing the pace notes now, back then when you were doing them as a co-driver yourself? What did your day look like? Did you have certain routines that you do now and that you did when you were setting up for a WRC event back then? Was there similarities, or are they completely different?
No, they'd be similar. Like, even though the difference is calling the notes to me, so I'm the one writing them down.
Right.
Obviously, we're working together, so he'd take a bit of input from me, but like he was at a high level, so there wasn't a huge amount of input required. But you still have to be prepared. You still have your cameras fitted to the recce car. You still have to be organised where you're going.
But in terms of like your wake up time,
you could be up at any time.
So the wake up time, eating, water, coffee.
Yeah.
What does the process actually look like during the day?
So basically, generally for recce, you'll be up at 6 o'clock. So you usually have to be at the stage at 8. It's starting at 8, so you'll be able to be there before it. We're at M Sport, so all the M Sport cars went together. So all the World Championship drivers. So Thierry Neuville, who's still Hyundai, was with us. Tanic was with us as well. You all leave together. We all had a recce schedule, so you stick to the schedule to know that you get all the stages done in time. So then you'd have a recce lunch. Mick the chef was doing it at the time. We'd have an arranged place where we pull up during the recce. You'd all as the M Sport lads that have the recce cars, all with water, with snacks in them, everything. Like, it was basically, it didn't get any higher, like, organisation wise. The good thing about, because I was getting busier work here at home with the events and so on, it sort of suited me to run with M Sport because they did a lot of the prep work in as the recce schedules for you. All you have to do was basically read the road book and read the map and have an idea, when you're looping stages. So when you might not always have a road book to follow, that you had an idea where you're going, because he's like me, he won't be the most patient individual for going the wrong direction. So you need to be ahead of it. And I suppose that was the thing in the end up that probably made me look at it. In 2014 I did a big enough year with Aziz as well. Same, we did WRC 2. We didn't have as much success. Funding was an issue, in as like he hadn't a major sponsor for the following year. Seashore pulled out, and then 2015 I just sort of had enough. Like, I was getting busy with work, and it was just too much last minute. Like I was going on planes and I was sorting out, looking over all the paperwork, and I said I'm going to get caught out here at some stage, not being organised. Like because work was just getting so busy here with the notes, and obviously with Lucy then she was only small. And 2015 then I remember Dubai. Went to Dubai rally in 2014. It was the last round in the Middle East. It was always in December. It was a class event. Like it was a lovely time to go to Dubai. And I just said, you know what, I just have enough of this. Like I need to sort out things here. So that's what I did. Michelle was pregnant with Ben at the time, and I said, you know what, I'll take 2015 off. And I sort of concentrated on work, but I wasn't missing it so much. But the hardest thing is I like to be going all the time. Like probably in one sense I said I didn't want to be going, but I like going. Like I'm not wired to be in the one place all the time. Like
I know you didn't like COVID in the same way I didn't like.
I hated it. And I'm like the 3 kids and all. Yeah. And you say, oh, wasn't it great to have time with them at home during COVID? Not really. Like not the way I was. Like I wasn't happy I wasn't happy. Obviously, the financial pressures on my business stopping, not ending, stopping for COVID. I was at home all the time, homeschool. Like this is not my life. Like I'm always like tomorrow I could be this week I could be in Cork on Thursday. Generally a week I could be in Manchester. Could be anywhere even now. And I'm happier in as. It's not that I don't want to spend time with them. It's just that I'm better going always on the go. I love being busy. I hate being quiet. And even now, like this is my quiet time for 6 weeks, but I'm actually busy enough because I'm getting prepared for next year and my plans for next year. So it sort of suits me this year. I'm not feeling like I'm quiet, even though my days are flexible enough. Yes. But then at the end of 2015, actually, I knew because I have to be light enough co-driving, and Aziz would have been obsessed with weight because I would have been heavy enough in 2012. And then when I started sitting with him, I probably lost a stone. But thanks to you, I would have started off training one of your first customers. Yes. And I got fitter, and I could see the difference in co-driving. My mind wouldn't be wandering, and I then began to appreciate the fitness side of things. In as I wouldn't have been that fit up to then, in as I didn't probably carry huge weight around 07 to 2012, and then 2012 I did like a good bit of weight on, and then I slimmed down obviously because Aziz used to be on to me the whole time. So which is fair enough. Like he was paying top money for top teams, and this sack of spuds beside him was carrying 3 or 4 10 kg too many. Like so then at the end. But
10 kg is not that much.
Oh, but see, if you're looking for half a second.
Exactly. It's not that much maybe to your average person, 10 kg, or to your average co-driver in Ireland. Yeah. But when you get to the top level,
everything counts.
Everything.
Well, like it shows your interest level. Like if you can't be bothered to move, if you can't be bothered, you're the fat lad going around the service park. Like sure, who wants a big lad? Like a big. Why are you bringing this lad with you? Like he's too heavy. So I was in great, and even the way I was concentrating on calling the notes, like I was never better in as those years in 13, 14, like calling notes and how I was never tired or anything like that. Then in 15, I suppose I didn't do any training. Like I was like, you know what, concentrate and work on the road, usual. Then in November, something said to myself, listen, you're going to go back co-driving next year. I just had this scroll to go back. I just wanted to go back. Like I just hadn't finished. I was like, I'm going to go back here. And then in 2016, I started going to your gym. Then and I lost a lot of weight, probably before February. And then unfortunately, Marshall Clark had filled in for me with Aziz, or he had not filled in for me, and as he was there now, and him and Aziz had a massive accident in Qatar, the first round in the Middle East. And Aziz texted me then a couple of days after that and said, hey, I'm going to Mexico in 2 weeks' time, can you come with me? It was like, whatever it was like, I couldn't have went the way I was like, but I was fit and I was ready and I was ready for it. And for whatever reason, my head told me that the call was going to come. I didn't know from who or what the circumstance of the call was. But then I did Mexico, and it didn't work out well, issues with team and so on. Back then, we were in a Skoda, couldn't get it to really handle like the Ford did for us. I did a few Middle East rounds, then the car didn't arrive from one event, and just was a messy enough year. And then 2017, I don't think Aziz did anything. And subsequently, I just did one event. I think Rally GB. I think just one event with Brendan Comiskey, just for a bit of fun, just just to enjoy it. And that's the last World Championship rally I did back in 2017. So
okay, so just to switch gears a little bit, I met a school friend, John, there about 2 months ago. Yeah. Outside Smith's in a big, massive Audi Q7,
Right.
blue one, gorgeous car, pulls up right outside Smith's, and he said to me, every time I see a car like that I think of Killian Duffy.
He does alright.
So what...
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, basically. But you always had an M3, you had all these
Evos and stuff.
unreal cars
Yeah.
when no one had them really,
Yeah.
as such, or when very few people had
Yeah.
them. But you bought them yourself. They weren't bought for you. So how on earth do you go from, again, 17 and driving maybe a box car, Civic or Golf or
Yeah.
whatever, to buying a car worth 50 to 100,000?
I suppose, listen, I think that's probably the time we lived in. It was the boom time. Like, everyone
Yes.
thought they had money, but realistically it probably wasn't theirs. And you
Yes.
get sucked in. So when I was teaching in Dublin, again, the teaching was grand, I enjoyed it, but I always wanted more, and I wasn't busy enough. So we used to get a half day every single Wednesday in Tala Community School, and I used to have a flight booked, and I was buying cars on eBay every week. Every single week I'd head off on a Wednesday flight anywhere. And you're on about not knowing where you're going. That was worse than the Middle East. I was going, there was no sat navs, so I'd print off the A route planner. So I'd buy the car on eBay, always eBay, because it was very, very reliable, and you had feedback and you knew where they were. So I bid in the car the last second. I just throw on whatever I pay for it, and if I won it I got it, and if I didn't I didn't. It was all GTD golf, so I was putting a huge amount of them.
Okay.
And I did different golf. I might have 2 golfs some weeks. So basically I just traded up. I had a Sleeka GT4, wish I still had it, be worth a fortune. And I said I was going up and down Mayo to Dublin, and I spent a fortune on petrol on this GT4 Sleeka 1851. And then I said diesel golf GTD, and then I used to advertise it, and then I was just advertising them every week. And
What year was this?
Oh, 05, yeah, it was 05, 06, 07.
And it seemed like the car was changing nearly every week.
It was changing every week, and some of them were nearly 3 at some stage. Like, I was just flying to England sometimes twice a week.
And you were
And I
making
come back in.
profit on all of
Yeah,
them, is it?
yeah. Well, no. Stupidly, what I was doing, I was putting it back in, getting a big. So instead of having a pot of 3 cars, I put it into 1 car, and then the recession came, and the whole thing went upside down because I had a car. I had an M3, like a 3-year-old M3, Phoenix yellow M3. Geez, beautiful car.
I remember it.
I was
yeah.
23 or 24 years of age. I used to get stopped everywhere in it because obviously I was probably young enough looking at that age or at that stage. And it was a lovely car, but the problem was it was completely worthless. The bus came, no one wanted a 3.2 litre, 350 brake car. And that was probably there's been certain things in my life that was stupidly, and that was like, that definitely, like whenever I see young fella, like never judge a person by what they're driving is what I would say is the best advice. Like I probably had this M3, and behind it all I had feck all, like in as,
Yes.
like I probably couldn't have went on holidays, like, you know, it just
Yes.
didn't make sense.
Which
like,
is pretty common though for people driving.
I would say it's very
big
common,
cars
like
now,
yeah, and you know, I used to always say,
is it a Mayo thing or is it an Irish thing to have a big
no,
German,
it's
German
I
car?
think it's. I wouldn't say it's even a Mayo. I'd say it's a worldwide thing. Like,
Do you think?
lots, loads of people are driving
Well, I
around.
think particularly in Ireland, people love their
Cars.
They love their Audis, Mercedes, BMWs.
Oh, the UK would be the same now. It'd be huge amounts.
just
like,
as much.
they would, yeah. Like, and probably in the UK, it's pretty easier to get into heavy metal stuff, like
Mm.
big, because you can lease them for like good enough value. But like a lot of people might be buying and releasing them. They're probably living at home and they've no headaches. Whereas, like realistically, the M3 was grand, but again, it just bought at the wrong time, and I put all my eggs in one basket. So then I think I lost 8,000 in 2 months in that car, which was a lot of money at the time, like for a teacher. And then I think I bought a 330 coupe diesel, like a 2-year-old one, like it was hot hatch of the year. It was a lovely car. Lost another 3 or 4 grand on that 2 months later, and I was just like, I suppose it was minuscule compared to what people were losing, builders
Yes.
and so on. But I was feeling the pinch of it. So then I just went back to golfs, and I was still my favourite ever car that I'd ever have, and if I had one car to pick for the rest of my life, it'd be a GTD Golf.
Yeah.
I love golfs.
Yeah, I think actually that's where my interest in
I love golfs. You
comes
can't beat
from.
them because everyone drives a golf.
Yeah.
You can't tell. Like you look at someone I'm not saying we just say a big Jeep. We're not saying your friend or whoever, but like you think they have money, whereas the person in the golf, you don't have any idea. They may or they
You
may
don't
not.
have any preconceived notions.
No, and they probably have as much as they're probably just not as far financed as the person in the big car, you know.
Yes.
And so yeah, that was So I had to get back to reality then.
Well, technically, I heard this before on the Tim Ferriss podcast. You can buy a car for 8,000 to 10,000 euro. That is as fine as anything you'll ever need.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, I have a car for work. It costs me 10 grand.
You could say you don't need anything dearer.
Yeah.
Or you could say, oh, it's absolutely pointless getting anything dearer. But that does. It's like saying you could buy a hoodie in
hierarchy of needs.
Yes, you can buy a hoodie for €10 in pennies versus you can pay a few €100 for a hoodie that does the exact same job. So what is your reason for having that? What do you love? What do you love about it?
I just love cars. Like I just love. I let the M3. Like I remember looking at Top Gear videos of the M3, and all I want to do was trade up to an M3. Like whatever I had to do to get it. Like even before that, I think the last car I had before that was an Evo 7 that looked like an Evo 9. And so I'd gone in away from the Golfs, and I'd gone like I could buy anything. Like I nearly bought a Porsche Jeep and just mad stuff. Like but it was all I traded up the whole way. It was just then the only reason I lost big time.
Trade up?
So like to say all the profit I made, instead of pocketing it, I just went dearer all the time.
Okay. And it was that simple, really?
Really, yeah. Once you had money to start off with, which wasn't a lot. Like I remember doing the calculations in as what I owed versus what I owned in his cars. Like it was what I owned was way more than what I owed.
Yes.
In his, I had 3 cars or 2 cars at the time. But
well, I'm sure my friend at the time, I was never that into cars.
Yeah.
I understand it. I get it because a lot of my friends were very into it.
Yeah.
And my friend David was always constantly trading up, like you're saying there. And he sells Lamborghinis now in Vancouver.
Yes.
And it's the same obsession with just constantly trading up and wanting something a little bit better than the last one. Yeah,
like even new cars now, like it's still a struggle to actually buy a new car, and it's I'm very lucky obviously with Jerry Comiskey Volkswagen. I have to take one and everything, but after a few weeks you realise then that they still get dirty and the new look still comes off them. But
yes. So we'll change gears a little bit and go to. So you mentioned a couple of times that. So if Francis would get the note wrong, you'd be really angry.
Yeah.
Okay. Or if Aziz, you got the note wrong for him, or someone got the note, he'd be really angry. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's very relatable to numerous different sports. I can tell you a lot of Gaelic footballers, if they're very driven and they're one of the top players on the team, your Ronaldo type character in soccer, or certainly I've came across them in Gaelic football, they get extremely aggressive if things aren't of the highest standard. And the same with a lot of businesses. How do you reconcile being a people person and rubbing people up the right way with having high standards and not coming off as a prick who's just eating the head of people before and behind them? Where is the middle ground there for you?
Generally, I don't really I wouldn't have many fallouts. And I always say Michelle, my wife, I'd be more forward than me. She'd be more honest than me. If she's a problem, she'd say it. Whereas I mightn't always say it. I'll say it in the car when I'm making notes. But even in other areas of business, I mightn't just say it. The problem is then I don't have a middle gear. I always say I have a very low one or a very high one, and I wish I had something in the middle. But generally, the likes of my customers, I don't think I've ever had a bad word with them. Someone starting off, you'd be getting advice from people, and they tell you, oh, you should do this, you should do that. And then I remember the first year, I did notes for Midland, we'd say it was the first rally. Next thing was people, oh, the notes are good, but I would have done this, this, and this. And then I went to the next event, I think it was Monaghan, and I was listening. All these voices were in my head as I was doing the notes, and I made the worst of notes. I lost customers at that event. They were like, what is this crap you're after writing? Overcomplicating it again, thinking all these people in my head. Then eventually when I came home from that, I said, you know what, I'm listening to nobody. I'm going to make the notes to suit myself, and that's it. But that was the only time I probably, not that I don't listen to customers, sometimes people ring, oh, the distances were a bit out there, and I'll be like, well, show us where the distances are out. I'd always be curious to see how could I be better. I watch lots of in-cars of my customers using the notes, so I'm watching them at proper speed. Say if there was rally on at the weekend, Killarney Historic, say, or 2 weeks ago, I'd look at it and see, right, how's that note look now when they're doing it at full speed, or they're getting slides, or what's the surface like, that I can remember. Because I'd have an excellent memory. I could be talking about a stage in Kerry, and they'd be saying, oh, they're using this, this, and this stage, but then at the time they're telling me over the phone, I mightn't recognise it. But see, once I get there, I know exactly what's coming next. I'll remember when I'm back in that situation. I'll remember what's coming next. But as for customers, no. Generally, a lot of my stuff is online. See, I'm selling I won't say happy pills. Like everyone's happy. Like I'm not charging for electricity. I'm not charging for stuff they don't want to pay for. Bins. Like even people like some of the best business people in the country are customers of mine.
Yes.
And like I'm always like, oh, they're the loveliest person you could ever meet. And then you meet people who work for them and say, geez, they're not at all. What are you on about? You come deal with your man. I'd be like, well, whenever he rings me, he's going rallying and he doesn't care. He doesn't care. They don't. Not they don't care about the cost of it. They know it's their sport. It's their getaway. I'm meeting people at their absolute best time of their life because they're happy they're enjoying their sport, and I'm only providing them with a small ingredient of this enjoyment. It's probably the cheapest ingredient the whole weekend is the notes. Like they start buying tyres, buying fuel, it could be thousands, whereas mine's like 70 odd euros. So like they're everyone's happy. Yes. So in as customers wise, no, I wouldn't, like, as long as they're happy, I'm happy.
But say for like, so with the higher standards, so let's say you're trying to drag things up a level in business or in rallying, and you're trying to get to the next level, and you're trying to pull people along with you. How do you do that in a way that's not as abrasive as it could be?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time when you're dealing with people with high standards who've been at a high level like yourself, they go back and work with people not at that level, and it can come out like, it can come out like a shouting match, or it can come out like just constant frustration. So how do you get people to see the potential often that they have that they can't even see themselves?
Yeah, well sometimes I suppose you sort of, like obviously with the notes you see, it's normally Francis, and if it's not Francis, excellent at writing notes. Like he's the fastest writer in the country, I reckon, at writing notes. Craig Parry, that's my partner in the UK, like he's one of the best co-drivers in the UK. He just had to finish because of a bad accident.
And even the Aziz thing, say he wanted you to lose weight, that's very relatable for a lot of sports.
Yeah, of course.
You go into soccer, rugby, Gaelic, first thing, get leaner, get stronger, lose weight,
gain simple, weight. Sure, why not? Like,
but that's like, a lot of people can take that and be offended by it. Yeah. Oh, he said I'm not good enough.
He probably told me what I was probably hiding from for a long time.
So
you had no choice.
You could take it, but a lot of people can't take it. Yeah. So how would you go about delivering that in a way that's someone can take properly, and also what makes you be able to take that without getting offended, just saying, okay, this is what I need to do and I'm going to do it?
Yeah, see, I suppose like a lot of the thing I do is organisations and stuff as well. So I won't say that, like, I don't really have much, I wouldn't have any, like with the likes of Francis writing notes, like we wouldn't, where I'm saying he might miss something, it's no big deal, because I do like I say it really quickly because I'm moving on to the next note. So it's that environment where it needs to be done instantly. Like outside that, as I said, like dealing with people, it's mostly clubs I'm dealing with here with the organisation side of things, and like they're well organised. The only thing that I would say is that there's probably, it frustrated me a little bit was with rules and rule changes and stuff, that, the likes of when I was running Mayo stages this year, like some of the rule changes I just couldn't understand why they just couldn't be passed immediately. And I get the way organisations work and Motorsport Ireland works, they can't just have anyone making up their own rules. But I was trying to get them to see this, the way there was no sense in some of there is like no park ferme, like whereas everyone has to park in this specific place overnight. For what reason? Like there's no why is there even a park ferme? There's no reason to have it. There was other things I had, in the event, like, and probably that was a bit frustrating, and sometimes I can be a bit headstrong, like I'd probably get a little bit thick about it, so that'd be one of my weaknesses, I would say, like in as working people to get the result I want in organisations. Yes. And okay, I haven't been awfully heavily involved in the Mayo Club because just, as I said, time is just the biggest thing at the minute. But as I said, I'm lucky that it's a small team, like, because I often look at business and say, gee, how does that person employ 100 people and deal with 100 people? Yeah. Like that, I don't think I'd be designed for that. Like, I don't think I could work with that many people.
But to say someone who wants to go up the levels and they need to have thick skin, would you have any advice for someone like that on taking feedback, whether it's dealt in a nice constructive way or it's dealt bluntly? I think it's essential.
I think it's important even for the kids growing up. Like, I think it's important for like kids have to learn how to lose as well as to win. Like the new thing is that everyone's a winner, but at some stage of their life they're not going to win, and then they're not getting congratulated anymore for putting in more effort. So like the future is a bit ropey.
Distorted,
Well,
yes.
I just don't know how they're going to ever have the hunger to go on and do stuff. I'm not on about my kids. I'm just generically that age, and as if they're all winners, then why would I? What motivation would I have to try a bit harder to do a bit better? But you have to just plough on and go do the best you can every day. Is the advice I would say. You know, and if you be critical of yourself, like I would have watched InCar myself too early there now in Loads and two, and to be fair, like the difference in motorsport is there's not many, like if you're part of a football team, you're out there running, everyone can clearly see that you're not fitter than the rest of the guys, so you're getting called out there immediately. Whereas in rallying you can go a long way before anyone calls you out. And you have to be able to take it. You have to, because if someone's paying you to go co-driving, if you're part of a team, if you're part of a setup, then you have to take advice, because you're not going to get any better. You mightn't like to hear it, but ultimately it's going to make you better. You know, I knew 100% when I was lighter in 2012, like 13, 14, like I we couldn't have been fitter, the two of us. There's a couple of things we could have done better in hindsight that we didn't. His notes were okay, and they could have been better. He could have been quicker, but ultimately we're at a stage where a level where we're nearly plateauing, as his level was at his level, in as he couldn't have done much better than he was doing. Like, you know, car equipment, co-driver. The only thing that was letting us down slightly, is pace notes.
Is it obvious to see that? Is it obvious to see, okay, for him and for you, we're at our max level, or do people delude themselves?
Probably people, rallying's a funny thing. Like, it's probably like a lot of sports, a lot of it's in your head. So once you start, so say someone's doing really well, but they're just lacking that little bit, they'll start changing stupid things, and the first thing they'll do is fry their head, and the second thing they'll do is they'll go slower. They'll start looking at stuff, they start overanalyzing, go back to, they're overcomplicating stuff. People have to realise that if you get to your level, are you doing everything? Like, I did a workshop a few years ago around the country, and I was talking to people, and like in rallying you'd have a lot of people and you say, right, if you lost 2 stone weight, you'll go 5 seconds a stage quicker. They won't do it. A lot of them won't do it. They're just, you're mad in the head, sure, why would I do that? Or if you eat right the night before a rally, why would I do that? I love a steak and chips the night before a rally.
Yes.
And then they're feeling like death the next morning. They're 10 seconds off the pace in the first stage and they're blaming the tyres. Or if you tell them, listen, you could lose 2 stone, you'll be 5 seconds, or spend 10 grand in a gearbox. They'll usually fire a 10 grand gearbox in. So it's their sport, I get that. But my frustrating is that they can't see, like I come at the end of stages and I interview people and I see the co-drivers chaotic in the passenger seat. I'm thinking, how can they sit beside that person? That would make me uneasy. If someone's uneasy, I'm uneasy.
It's going to make you anxious.
Yeah. And then how can that transfer to stage times? It's like, I always make the comparison, is when you go in, and I used to be a fussy eater, say I want sauce on the side, I want the steak done this way, then the person is sort of doddery taking it down, and you will spend the next 20 minutes wondering, I wonder did they get my order right. So that's exactly the same with co-drivers. If you have someone that's a bit doddery, say in the recce and the simple things, well then when they're delivering pace notes at 120 mile an hour, they're almost certainly going to have the same approach. Like, so you're subconsciously you're going to be doubting what they're telling you. So like that's where you need to make a change, and that was the big thing about the workshop. Is I was trying to get people away from spending money and look at themselves, because a lot of them are the master of their own destiny. They won't, like drivers are paying their own rally. They won't have someone come up and say, hey, listen, do this, this and this, you'll be better. They'll only look at a very channel thing, that someone else has a quicker engine or something. They'll never look, like a lot of people don't look internally at themselves to get better.
Well, that's 80-20. It's like when I started GA coaching, I was looking at what are the best teams in Ireland do. What are the best coaches in Ireland doing? What are the best? And they were literally looking at like the team down the road.
Well, you can't fix the senior team.
And trying to fix based on what the team down the road was doing. It's like they just had, Charles Poliquin used to call it, looking at the world through a straw. They were just so focused on such a small area that they were closed off to all the other ideas. Maybe not even from you. Maybe not different sports you pick up different ideas from. But that would bring to 80-20, where you're trying to tell them to focus on this is the 20% of stuff that actually is going to improve your rally. But they're focusing on the 80% that's not going to make fuck all difference. How do you help someone to start realise, okay, they're prioritising things wrong? and this would actually make a way bigger difference. Is that something that someone naturally has, do you think, or is it something that can be taught? If they have things arseways and they're focusing on priorities that don't matter, like you said, the tyres, the gearbox, when they should just get fitter or eat a bit healthier.
Yeah, you can't. It's very hard. Like, people are paying for their own thing. So it's not like, right, if you're not fit enough, you're not going to be able to start like a football player. It's obvious you're going to be left out.
Well, you think it's obvious, but it's not.
But they're going, they're paying for the rally and they don't care. But my big thing was doing that course, and like, it was very busy all over the country. I did it, and even the online version I did during COVID. Like, it's just to get people to look at themselves, and like, people don't realise the value of being fitter and more alert and eating the right things. And even when I was rallying here back in, even when we were in the national championship, I always wondered why the next day I'd wake up feeling like death on the Sunday morning. I'd never feel great. Like, I'd never feel, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed or ready for the day. But it was all down to, we would have went out for a big steak the night before and probably chips you'd be sound once you got through the first or second stage. But like, it's just about people looking at, and the big thing I said about this course is, when I went around, I'm not trying to take the enjoyment out of your sport. I'm not trying to say, if you do these things you may be quicker. I'm telling you, if you do these things you will be quicker. And it's not that you're, see, the Irish thing is sometimes, oh geez, the lads be looking at me, thinking I'm taking it too serious. But you're spending maybe between 3,000 and 10 grand a weekend. Like, sure as God, can you not just see that you're wasted, that you're not spending that you could spend it better. And like, a lot of people in lots of sports don't realise their potential because they just couldn't be bothered.
100%.
And
they have
it's frustrating, but again, for me, it's not really affecting me massively. It's just like, I can see people, and lots of people do ring me and say, listen, will you look at me in car and see how I can be better? And that's great. And like, sometimes you feel bad, giving feedback. But then I've never fallen out with someone that I've given feedback, say, listen, if you do this, and this.
I think someone who's actually even has the balls to ask you for
Correct,
feedback
is the one to change.
They're not going to be the type of person that are going to be easily hurt over the feedback.
No.
It's the people who won't even ask that are going to be hurt if you try and give them feedback, because they don't want it.
No.
So, a lot of what you're describing sounds like an awful lot of fun. Okay, so like, running your business, you've made that sound like you enjoy it and it's fun. Being on the road all the time, you said you enjoy that rather than sitting down all the time. And then obviously the co-driving when you're involved in your sport, that sounds like a lot of fun as well. But I remember when your business was starting, you had the small half a shed back of the house.
Yeah, that's right.
A few photocopiers, printers, like you were saying at the start, and very early mornings, 6, 7 o'clock. You'd be in the shed, picking up bits and heading off. So, how do you reconcile, you're having fun and building something, a business, building a project that you love doing, but at the same time, it's very early mornings, late nights, 12-hour drives, 14-hour drives, the cold in the morning, in a shed, and you're printing and there's fucking paper all over the place, and you're always against deadlines, which I don't have to fight with too much in my business, maybe a bit in the GA but not in the business side, but you're against deadlines. You have to get this done, sent out by this time, and there's a lot of pressure and anxiety with deadlines. This is coming at this time, are you fucking ready or are you not? How do you reconcile the pressure and the long days and the graft of making your own business or creating your own project with having a bit of fun along the way?
Yeah, but the way I look at it is like,
you've described it. What I'm saying really is, you've described it as a lot of fun, but but don't forget how hard it was.
Exactly. No, it's still hard, and it's still early mornings. Like, generally, like, I would get up most times before the kids get up. So if I'm not on the road, I still get up at 5:30, 5:45. I do 2 hours before the kids get out of bed.
Every day?
5 days a week, nearly 5 days a week. Generally, I don't work many Fridays, so I'd say 4 days a week, realistically. I don't mind, I love it. I have coffee there, it's so nice, I don't mind it, and I'm in better form. Whereas if I get up at 8 o'clock and I'm rushing the kids off to school, trying to drop them, get back, I've lost 2 hours. So I always think, of the poor people that hate going to work.
Yes.
And like I never dread going to work, never. No matter what. If you told me you have to go to Cork this evening to collect something for work, sure, if I do, I do. Yes. Whereas I always think of the people that have to be there at 9 o'clock. and have to ask for their break at 10:15, and have to, like, oh God, I had no money to pay me to do that. Like, I went back, so during COVID, obviously the whole thing stopped. I was at home, and I went back to Ballyhonus Community School just doing substitution. I went back teaching. I just had to get out of the house. Like, not even about the money or anything, I had to get out of the house. But like, the hardest thing I struggled with, and I enjoyed it being back there and the lovely people back there, but the thing I couldn't get onto was meeting the same people at the same time on the road 5 days a week. And I had to be there at the same time, and I had to wait till this time. Whereas, like, if I head Thursday to Cork, well, I have to be there around 11, and if I'm not there, I can ring the Shauna meeting and say I won't be there till 11:30. Generally, I'll be on time. And then, okay, you might get a puncher in the forest, but it's no big deal. There's no. Whereas when they're printing and binding now, most but aren't after bringing in a new rule that's probably going to help me. That you can't send out the notes and DVD till 5 days before an event, so that's narrowed down a week for me, and as I have a bit more time to play with. Because usually when I have the notes done, my phone starts texting, hey, can you send it on? Is it ready? Is it ready? Is it ready? Is it ready? Everyone wants to get their hands on it. Not for any reason, only they want just curiosity. They want to get prepared. So, like, I really enjoyed it, but it's like riding the wave. Like, when you're on the wave, things seem to come your way, and when you get off the wave, it's very hard to get back on it. Like, and that'd be the one thing I would say, like, business-wise, I've learned is, like, when you're on the wave, just keep going. Don't stop. Because when you stop, like COVID was the big stop for me, you lose your confidence and you don't think you can come up with any ideas. You don't think you question yourself, you doubt yourself. You say, Jesus, will this ever get going again? Or will I get going? Whereas COVID has taught me that whatever comes in my way now, I'm just going to try my best at doing it. And, like, we'd only started in the UK in 2019, Craig Parry and myself. And that just came out of an accident he had, and he couldn't go back co-driving. And I rang him and said, I've been 9 years trying to get into the UK and I couldn't get in, or 8 years, and we got in 2019. A few events let us in, like, and we'll say that the propaganda would have been heaped against me from my competitors in the UK, and people would have been hearing things about me and so on, about what I've done. I didn't do anything. Like, I get on with all clubs and all competitors here. Like, I don't really have any enemies, I would say, in motorsport in Ireland or the UK, to be fair, but they would have heard all these stories about this guy coming in doing notes, because obviously there was a monopoly there for 25-30 years. So obviously they didn't want me crossing the Irish Sea to start taking business there. But it's just, I've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed growing the UK, and like every weekend down Ireland that I look at the results and I see customers doing well, like, it's just mega, like. And when I go to do an event and I am a bit crabbed in the car with whoever's with me, it's because I want to get the best for the people that's buying notes off me. I don't want anyone on anyone else's notes beating my notes. And there's only obviously one competitor here and maybe 1-2 in the UK. But I don't want anyone going better. I want everyone to go as quick as they can, as safe as they can on my notes. And that's what drives me on. And I suppose then it's led on to the media side of things, that I just had a grow for that, in as I like talking. You probably gathered at the length of this podcast, and that just came randomly as well. The Facebook Live from back in 2012. I was going
to ask you about that. You have social media projects coming next year.
Yeah, so basically, 2012, like, that was the year where I wasn't sitting with Aziz. I had no real program events, and I had a bit of time, so I was involved in Mayo Rally, and they were running a program. TG Carr or Telegate was doing a program, and I was involved in the organising team. So I went up to 2010 I went to Bonner. I said, listen, this is the guy, he's one of the main people in Telegate, and he's mad into rally. I said to Enda, if you ever needed a presenter, like, bold as brass, like, if you ever want a presenter like me, I'm okay at stage ends, but doing pieces to camera, forget it. I'd say they nearly ran out of tape the amount of times I had to do pieces to camera. I just couldn't do it. I was poor at it. Welcome to the X, Y and Z, and say it in that structure. I have major respect for people that can do that. And I did the voiceover for the programme as well, and I used to have to go up to Telegate's studio, and it gave me a great background to how to do the voiceovers and how it's all done and green screens and so on and so on. So 2010 anyway, we did 5 or 6 events, enjoyed that, but then there was a person already doing a bit of the DV here anyway, so that sort of stopped. 2012 then, for Mayo Stages, I said, you know what, we'll do a thing on YouTube. So we did this YouTube show, so we'd interview them at stage ends, we'd a video editor with us, proper mic, and he'd edit the interview, so it was plus a half an hour. So so the people were getting updates around the world. We were able to see people after half an hour. This only 10 years ago, half an hour. This was unbelievable. Like, this is nearly world championship standard.
Yes.
And the problem was it was very labour intensive, so you needed 5 people to do it. So by the time you charged the club to pay 5 people, no club wanted to pay for it. And then sponsors were harder to get. Obviously 2012 still coming out of the recession. So we always said, Andy and myself, Jesus, if we could get something that could stream it, like, you know. And then lo and behold, Facebook Live came, 2017. And I started 2016. And I was up at a rally in Donegal, and I just pressed this live thing. I was actually marshalling at this place in the middle of nowhere. There was no people, and I pressed live, and I just videoed a few cars. Hadn't a clue what I was doing.
Yes.
2016, October, it's harvest 2016. Hadn't a clue. Next thing I hung up, didn't do commentary, didn't do anything, a few cars. Next thing people, hey, can you go live again? I'm really enjoying it. I was like, sound. So doing the live few things.
Just on your phone? On
my phone. And I remember, I think I left Kevin Barrett, he was sponsoring the National Championship, a voicemail or text, and I said, listen, Kevin, you need to get onto this Facebook Live for your championship next year, because this is the way it's going to go. People have live, and I've already, you know, good feedback on it. I've no interest in doing it because I don't want to be away every weekend doing it. Hung up. So nothing came of it anyway. And Mayo Stages, Andy Walsh and myself went live from our own account. So Andy Walsh, Killian Duffy, and we did this, and these little wired mics into people. And next thing we had like 1,000 followers and on the Pace Note Facebook page. And I was like, right, that was a bit of crack. We did it today. No sponsor or nothing. We just did it for a day's fun. Next thing my phone started ringing. Hey, this is such and such from such a club. Can you come down and cover our event? How much does it cost? And I was like, geez, how much does it cost? I don't actually know. You know, my time, you know, paying Andy, you know, and so on. Then I was like, right, how can I make this work? Because I think, right, I mightn't do as much co-driving, or I wasn't sure, but obviously this is 2017 now. Was like co-driving was sort of stopped in as, because, you know, 2 kids. They were small, and I was already busy here. I was like, geez, how can I make this work? So we went to Midland with a couple of sponsors. One friend of mine said, here, I'll take 4 events off you, so put me in a slot for 4 events. So it just took off. We had 1,200 followers, and now we've 58,000, and we never paid for one ad on Facebook ever. Never paid for
58,000 on Facebook.
On Facebook just now. Instagram, my audience would be like male, like nearly 30 plus a lot.
Yes.
So it's older demographic.
Okay,
so TikTok, I started TikTok this year. I think I've just under 6,000 followers. It's sort of grand. It's for younger people. Instagram of about 5,000 or something. Yes. So that's grand as well. So all the
but you're only live on Facebook?
Only live on Facebook. We've tried to do Restream, we've tried different apps. Ours is really bespoke, and I'm like, alright, how can I improve this? Because I'm not happy with where it's at.
Yes.
But the problem is I can get Enda from Telegale, no problem, to come down with a full production team. And we can do it from a studio. We can do a Sunday game. We can do anything. But the problem is the cost. So who's going to pay for it is number 1. And will it give us any viewers, number 2? And it's probably cost prohibitive.
Well, one of the great things about YouTube, and a lot of the top YouTubers say it, and Casey Neistat says it as well, is that people actually often prefer watching an amateur production than a studio production.
100%, because it's too scripted.
Yeah.
It's too scripted. Like, you know, sure, I look at Ben and Lucy and Aaron, they look at stuff on YouTube and the camera's moving all over the shop.
Yeah.
I never watch television. I go on YouTube, and sometimes I watch it. Michelle's working overnights, and it's telling to myself, put on YouTube, and I could watch some guy vlogging about a car, and the camera's shaking, but I don't actually care,
and because I know more staged and scripted, you wouldn't like it.
No, you wouldn't like it. So there was the thing that Facebook has it. So Facebook Live. At the minute, we're still trying to improve it. I don't want the viewers to pay. Advertisers pay. They're happy paying. Like, I have some great advertisers on board with me there, and you know, accumulating in, obviously, Jerry Comiskey have a car of Volkswagen Ireland, or through Jerry Comiskey Volkswagen.
And what information are you bringing them? You're bringing them live results from the rally.
So basically, I'm interviewing everyone at the end of every stage of nearly every rally in Ireland, and you can watch it in Australia. Like our views are like I have a TikTok video there from a week and a half ago. Clarny starts 750,000 views on it on TikTok. Like some of our views, like we've one video from last year on clip of the rally is 20 million views. So basically so we used to be able to run screen filters on Facebook. So we'd be able to run like all our advertisers on it. So they did away with that, Facebook. So if you want to do that, you have to run through a medium, like a different app. But the problem with the app is, because we're broadcasting from our phones, we're so remote and we need to set up really quickly. It doesn't allow us time to feed into a different system, or have someone to overlay the logos on a live stream. So we've no logos. I was like, geez, how am I going to sell this to advertisers now? So then I said, sure, all the people out spectating on the hedges, let them WhatsApp me in the videos, the action. So I've 1,000 people out watching a video, or a few thousand people, and my phone would be red hot all these clips. I'm getting all the crashes, all the spins. Like I would have some of the spins sent to me before the car even gets to me at the stage end, and I could show people just put it on the phone.
Yes.
It's I won't say it's rough, it's raw. And like we had over 3,000 devices live on Sunday morning at Donegal this year. 3K in the corner of me on an e-scooter. I kept recording because I could get the end of the next stage. People loved it.
Yeah.
I'm going down past everyone queuing up for the stage, and people are getting. It's like they're there.
Yeah.
They don't want this scripted audience.
Speed,
people talking nonsense
speed is what's important, and you are
it's
literally
instant.
on there.
Instant.
Yeah.
We know if someone spun, but I'd be like, say Ali Fish, Ali had a spin in that stage. And we look at how.
Yeah.
We have it sent in to us
Yeah.
already. So then what it's allowed me to do with the clip of the rally is I overlay the logos on that. So all the non-live stuff, we have all the logos of our sponsors. So your TikTok, your Instagram, your big viewership on your clip of the rally on Facebook has all millions of views. And that's how I can sell the unique part of it is that you're giving them back this their logo on screen. And again, the thing is, I was talking to Brendan Kumsky, and Brendan is obviously one of my biggest supporters, the biggest supporter I have with regards to Facebook Live. And he was like he said, it doesn't really bother me whether my logo's on screen or not. Like he said, if you're talking about the product, he said, if I was advertising on a radio show, I can't see my logo on it. You're hearing about it. So we talk about the sponsors and so the package for next year is obviously then I'm trying to develop this on Facebook. I'm waiting for the technology, like I did for YouTube versus Facebook Live. I'm waiting for the technology that allows us to simply do what we're doing without changing a whole pile. And that is just not there yet. And I've talked to the two companies that do the GA streaming, and the figures involved, I'd have to charge the viewers anything between €5 and €10 to watch it, and I don't want to do that. I just wanted to watch it for free.
Yes.
Plus, your value to the advertiser goes down because you have less viewers because people won't pay. If you had a 10-cent payment gateway in the way, people would just go, I don't have my card on me, or don't have Apple Pay. I'm just so I'm happy where I'm going. I can get more advertisers on for 2023.
For now,
I'm not. I'm going to keep moving. I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it. I wouldn't be beyond now developing an app to actually just have my own app there. But again, it's like spending money versus return.
Yes.
Do I need to do that? The good thing about Facebook is versus YouTube is Facebook tells you I'm live, and then Facebook started messing around with our viewership as well. So they send us a huge amount of viewership, notify everyone that we're live for the first 3 videos. Then as the day went on, we were like, hang on, there's only 300 or 400 people on here, what's going on? But then I'd look, I wouldn't have got a notification. So they were cutting the amount of notifications.
Yes.
So then I said, right, how can I get around this? So we set up a Telegram group. So whenever I go live, if you're part of my Telegram group, I copy the link straight in. So even if you don't get the notification, it doesn't matter because you get there. So that's kept up our viewership. So there's always ways around it. It's just, again, that probably thought of that in a car journey somewhere that I just said, how can I get around this? And as I said, I don't listen to the radio. I really don't listen to the radio at all.
Well, the links go by, you can tweet them, WhatsApp them,
Correct. And the easiest thing about, say if you wanted to, after the rally, say someone's competing and they want to get the videos and they don't want to scroll through all the Facebook clips of the rally, they go, right, that's end of 3, press that, end of 3, I have the video up and away to watch it, and so it's basically, now is the next evolution of that is I want to, like, rallying in 2022, like Irish rallying is the best in the world, like it really is. The camaraderie, the racing, the cars, the professionalism of the organisation, so on and so on, it really is top class. Like that's not me rose tinted glasses, that's me seeing a lot of the world and how it's done, the atmosphere. It's just mega here, the variety of cars, the quality of cars. But we've no TV programme this year, and like TV to me now, when I say TV programme, I mean a YouTube show. Like I don't mean TV on at 11 o'clock, 3 weeks after rally. Forget it. Once you've passed the following weekend, it's dead. It's gone. Like I will never watch a football match a week later. But rallying, the live is good. In this Facebook Live is one way to watch it, but we need something to tell the story. So there was a TV show there for the last few years. There was a partner ways, and I suppose an opportunity for me to come in with something a bit fresher, a YouTube version of this. I have a good team almost in place for this. I will have for the first round in Midland, and I probably got an opportunity to do more events this year than I was prepared to take on. I want to really get it right this year, and then for 2024 I want to sort of, if I could broadcast every event is
so
sort of my plan.
Done well rather than just
eight rounds of the Triton Championship again, going back to my national championship, that's it's like, it's not my pet in as it's a brilliant championship. I love it. I won it. You know, Kevin Barrett sponsored from Triton. I'm very friendly with Kevin. I just like everyone involved in it. Not that I've anything against any other championship. It just fits. It fits well for what I'm going to do this year with this show. And I've come in with a model that's cheap to the clubs, in as it's not charging them a fortune for the coverage, but I can sell advertising on the show as well, so it's heavily subsidises it to the clubs. So I'm not going into a club saying, listen, I need 3 or 4 or 5 grand off you. I don't need anywhere near that. And I can produce a 30-minute show that they can show to their sponsors. And again, you can't come in with my sponsors and drive over the top of the championship sponsor or the event sponsor, because then they'll be like, well, why am I sponsoring the event or the championship? Can't I just sponsor him direct and it'll be cheaper?
Yes.
You can't do that. You have to look after people as well. You can't tread on people's toes.
Yes.
And I'm mindful of that. And with the Facebook Live, even because I'm selling the notes, I don't charge clubs for doing Facebook Live. I don't charge them a penny unless they ring me, which is unusual, and say, listen, we're taking the sponsorship ads, we're selling it to our sponsors. I'll go sound, but that might be 2 events a year. Every other event, the clubs don't pay me €1 because they're already good enough to let me in to supply the notes. So it's just, that's my way of saying thanks. I'll run their main sponsor logo always on the clip of the rally, always on along with my sponsors, and everyone's a winner. And I'm doing the same with the YouTube thing. I mean, we the best rally this year, and we've no show to show it. We've Facebook Live, grand for the day, but not afterwards. I'd like something there that gives me a rundown of the class winners, what the battles were, the story of what happened.
Yes.
You know, in a 30-minute show that I can sit down the Thursday night. Like we had it for Mayo this year, and we had the show, Flying Finn did it, lads that be involved with me in this new show. They're excellent, like Eamon Finn, Lee Kavanagh, all that crew are mighty at their camera work. They're filming rallying for 20 years more, and the brilliant editors and so on. But they did a show for Mayo this year, and it was on the Friday night after Mayo, and their live viewership on the Friday night was just insane. And I remember sitting, like we've movie night in our house with the kids every Friday night, and like Lucy getting all the stuff ready to watch the rally show. And what that's leading me on is how many other houses would be the same.
Exactly, yes.
Be it they were
if
helping
you're happy to do
spectating.
that, then
Sure,
you're not
why not
one
make
person.
it
Yes.
a big deal? Whereas if it was like the Tuesday night week after the rally, sure, we already had another rally in between, and it's like,
Yeah.
who even cares? It's too long ago. Like any event that isn't put out by the Friday at the absolute latest, forget it. It's a waste of time.
Okay. Well, we'll start wrapping up now.
Yeah.
So, what I'd like to ask you is, so for some, you've obviously got help from mentors along the way and people who've taught you a thing or two along the way. If you want to make a good impression on a few mentors, business-wise or rally-wise or any sport, what advice would you give to a young person?
I would say just like don't be afraid to ask or go up to people. Like generally, 99% of people are lovely. You know, don't think it's the opposite way. 99% of people are assholes. Like generally, people are only mad to help someone. All you have to do is ask them. Probably business wise, like in as grown, I would say that I'm decent enough in like making revenue, but like in as I would say there's leaks there in as that I could be better business wise. And funny is just a friend of mine that I sort of would got friendly with again this year, and I sat down and had breakfast with him morning and learned so much off him. Like he's 130 people working for him, and just some of the business advice, and it wasn't advice, he wasn't asking me, it was just chit chatting.
Yes.
It's like if you
But how would you get into that situation? Because those conversations are critical.
Well, funny actually, generally through a mutual connection is the easiest way to get through to anyone. It's like, how do most people meet? It's through making a connection in as, oh, do you know such a one from such a one? And that's, so you have some introduction. Like there's another friend of mine, his brother was high up in RTE, so now he's on my hit list in the next 2 weeks. I don't know that guy from Adam, but he was high up in sport there. So I had the connection, and his brother said, here, should give him a call and say I rang him and tell him what you do, and there's no hassle. So like it's all just, and it's about me driving up and meeting him. Like no one's going to come to your door and say, here's your advice. If you want something, you have to go and show that you want it.
Yes.
Like people are busy. Anyone that's working for themselves and generally are really busy. They're all like, time is not that like time is valuable. So that you're not going to drop. Like I'm not going to ring him and say, "Hey, can you come down and meet me?"
Yes.
I'm not the one looking for. He's not the one looking for the value. I'm the one looking for the value of him. So
you
I've
have
got
to
go
find, even if he has a half an hour in his day
just
for
go.
a cup of coffee,
Just
you
go.
have to make that
You will
effort.
get that. And there's actually a lot of people now over the coming months that I want to meet just to get their advice on certain things. Because I said I know a lot about pace notes. in as how I do that. But the media side of things, that's an area that I need a lot of advice to make it better, and everyone's input. And even like it's like marginal gains. It's like a football team. It's like Anton. There's nothing they're going to tell me that I'm going to go wow. It's going to be some small bit that makes a massive difference.
Yes.
It's all marginal gains. As the higher you get up the food chain of doing Anton, the advice is not massive. It's probably not going to shock you, but it'll be that difference of that 0.5% that made the thing you're doing better.
Okay, and do you have any favourite books, podcasts or documentaries you'd recommend to someone watching this who's liked listening to you, or from a rally background, or who hasn't been from a rally background?
I'm desperate reading books, first of all. I probably read the Sunday Business Post, maybe if it's there on a Sunday and I'm at work, and I like reading that. Podcast, Rally One's Crunching Gears. Really enjoy that. Kevin has great passion for rally and really enjoy it. Great guests as well. Conor Edwards is great, very knowledgeable. He's all the crews on. It's great. It's real nice to listen to on a journey. The other one then I started listening to was the Entrepreneur Experiment. It's an Irish one. I generally don't have massive interest in ones outside Ireland.
Okay.
As I wouldn't be great for listening to American podcasts, I just for no reason other than I'm more local in my thinking. The Entrepreneur Experience, he's some mighty guests on it, and that's actually what I listened to.
Any specific guest you liked listening to?
I can't even think of it. Like this guy that did that sports thing, the sports Townley. He did the sports, basically sports endorse. He started getting the athletes on, the GA athletes and that, and linking them up with brands. Very interesting. There's a guy on about Velo Coffee there. He was on it there, might have been back a few weeks ago. But I listened to that coming home from Dublin Saturday evening. And it was I was sort of sorry I got home because I didn't get to listen to the end of it.
Yes.
So the next journey I listened to the rest of it.
Yes.
But he was just on about a small roastery. He had a small coffee shop in Cork, and basically he just rode the wave. He just kept her lit. He just got a roasting machine, did a bit of research. Him and the son got trained to do the roasting, and he then got in the Aldi or Lidl's 1 week on a shelf program, and he got a few mentors saying, listen, if you take on this you have to be able to deliver it. And that was the thing. He says, I will deliver it. And he has key people there. Good. He hasn't a huge workforce. I think he doesn't have many people, 7 or 8 people working for him. And now he's supplying every Dunn stores, every Aldi in Ireland. And now he's hoping to get into UK with this Philo coffee. And I've actually, and I love coffee. I've never tried it, but the next time I'm going to go in, now that I realise it's like an Irish, like a bespoke enough, I'm going to give it a whirl and see what it's like. But the Entrepreneur Experience is very good.
Any documentaries that have stood out to you?
I love Drive to Survive, like the Formula 1, and I'd love to do something someday in rallying, that'll be the end goal of this whole thing, is behind the scenes, the passion. And even with the YouTube show this year, we've some incredible business people in rallying, and I'd love to spend a day, you only have to look at Donna Kelly, started KN Networks, one of the biggest. He got brought out by Circa. He landed here in the helicopter in Mayo Stages, he comes from the Frosses in Donegal. You're going back to the player from Kilmaine. He started off from a remote part of Donegal, and he is the biggest networking company in Ireland. Ken, you can hardly go on a journey without saying one of his vans, and he sold out there. But what a business person. Maguire Transport, one of the biggest haulage business in Ireland. Maguire, gentleman. And they're the people I'd love to do a little backstory with my YouTube show next year,
and
that they're competing in the championship.
Generally have so much information that is untapped.
And they're as normal as you or me.
Yes,
they're not going around.
Well, I've met a lot of those figures in GA, and it's
incredible.
It's incredible how untapped they are, despite, like you said, being willing to give advice they have. It's just a question of not asking rather than them not giving.
Yeah, and you can imagine just having a coffee with them. But my thing was that everyone sees them in a rally suit, even the Moffats, Josh Moffat there, he's the head of Combi Lift, and they make 52 million a year or something like that. It's crazy, and even just to sit down and say, well, what's your normal day? So everyone sees him in a rally suit, everyone sees him competing, but no one knows who he is.
Yes.
He's a small bit in social media, but what do you do? Going back, what do you do in the morning? What's your normal week? Where do you go in between the rallies? That's the sort of angle I want to bring to this YouTube thing, and that's
where the gems are.
Absolutely, sure. It shows who these characters are. you know, we need to, rallying needs to broaden itself out a lot more in as attract people into the sport. Like getting into rallying is like getting into a secret service. Like like trying to find information out if you have no information is virtually impossible.
Yes.
So the whole thing needs a big shake up there. But my thing with the YouTube thing is that we'll be able to have different people. You have a lot more flexibility with YouTube. Whether you have a 30-minute show or 40-minute show, it doesn't matter. So you can run with it. As long as you have good content in it, and that's my absolute end game for this, is that I attract new people into the sport, and obviously give the advertisers value for money and the viewers value for money, you know.
Perfect. Well, that's actually a perfect place to wrap up, isn't
Thanks
it?
very much.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
really enjoyed that. And if I'll leave all your social media handles at the end of this, so you're on TikTok, Twitter.
Yeah, Killian.Duffy on Instagram, Killian.Duffy on TikTok. I'm just On The Pace Note is our Facebook page for the
On the Pace Note is actually the name of the business.
Yeah,
so
On The Pace Note is
never
the
even
Facebook
mentioned
page. Yeah, On The Pace Note, and OnThePaceNote.ie is my Irish site, and OnThePaceNote.co.uk is the UK site. So yeah.
that. Excellent. Thanks for
Thanks,
coming on.
Thanks.
Brilliant.